You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, this past weekend was a thrill. It truly was. It was a lot of surprises, a lot of joy, a lot of, wow, did that really just happen? It was a lot. Gala season is in full effect. So my first major gala of the season was the 2025 PABJ Awards Gala. It was at the Museum of the American Revolution on Saturday night, and it was incredible. I say this all the time, the PABJ Gala is one of my, must-go-to events, not only because I'm the proud president of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, but because I think as a journalist and as someone in media, this is like our Oscars. This is the Oscars for any Black, media professional, journalist in the area. This is, Black brilliance at its finest. Fashion and the food, the drink, who's there, it was all of that. It was really a star-studded event. Of course, all of my people were there. The Lip Brothers, of course, we had a marathon this weekend in general, but the Lip Brothers were there. Dr. Parks and Joe and, oh my goodness, my homegirl Candace, Nina, Sharon. Oh my goodness. Of course, Mr. Johnson, of course. Chris Bartlett was there in a whole full tux. It was just glamour. My homegirl Laura. I'm just thinking of everybody who was there that night. It was the crew. Of course, my younger brother, State Representative Andre D. Carroll. It was so much fun. I mean, so many on-air talent. Siafa from CBS Philadelphia, Shari Williams, all the great honorees, our Journalist of the Year, Anne Marie Green, our Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Louis Messiah, my homegirl Cassie, Lauren. Everybody was in the building. It was so beautiful. Shout out to everybody who came through. All of the gowns, the gorgeous gowns. Okay, our Impact Award winner, Nicole Eli, oh my goodness, her dress was stunning. If I was wearing a gown that night, I would have wore that. It was a navy blue, oh my goodness, sequin dress. And it was a gown, okay? She wore down. She was dressing like someone who's winning an award. Krista Barfield, who was the community champion award winner, that's Farmer John. Her dress was also gorgeous. It just, everyone came dressed to impress. My vice president, Monique Curry Mims, she wore a nice stunner too. It was a lot of great fashion. Lots of great fashion. Then there's always Sharon, who just eats every time. It's almost like expected. You just know she's going to always be, in the top 3 of best dressed in the gala. So I didn't look too bad myself, actually. I wore a custom piece that I got made. It was a gold tux, but with a pattern and a black lapel. And I always wanted to do a gold and black suit, but nothing that felt, too loud. This was something I wanted to have that shimmer. It was bold, but not in a very jarring way. The black lapel, the subtlety, this was like an old gold, and it was a pattern. It was a double-breasted suit, which I wanted. I want that double-breasted tux look. It was just gorgeous. It was a piece of art, and it made its premiere. Never before seen. No one ever seen me in the fit. It was gorgeous. Mr. Johnson held a very lovely black tux with the bow tie. I had a sheer top to match my tux. No bow tie, because that suit that tux was so laid out. I felt like adding any extra accessory beyond the sheer top that I wore with it, which was a collared top. But I felt like it was, I wanted to make a statement, and the statement was felt. It was gorgeous. I had some gorgeous shoes. I love a good loafer that's decked out. Can never go wrong with that. But the fashion was fashioning, and it was a beautiful look the whole evening. Um, the Museum of the American Revolution is a beautiful venue. Um, I've had several events there, and we did a different layout this year that so many people enjoyed, and it was wonderful. The executive board of PABJ surprised me with an award of my own. Like they surprised me. I did not know that I was going to get an honor myself, and I was so happy. I really dressed down, like I really had a fit on. Okay, what the kids say, I was wearing what they say. I was wearing that shit. I was putting that shit on, as they say. But I looked good. I really did. I really, yeah. You see an outfit and it's gonna kill, but when you just, yeah, it did what it's supposed to do. It was a gorgeous outfit. And this award, they honored me for being the founder of the Emerging Media Diversity Convention. And it was a special honor that they surprised me with. And I'm always given the surprises, but I really was speechless. Like I had no words. Just yeah, they really did. People could tell I really did not expect it. It was kind of like a what? Like what's going on? But it was cool. It was very touching. And yeah, we gave out these incredible scholarships. We had two honorees. We had a 4-year college student at Penn State University, and his name was Jaden, and he received $3,000. And we also had a community college student, a student named William, who I taught last year. He's studying in communication and media studies, and he received a $2,000 scholarship. And it was a great time just to see these two young Black men do incredible work and receive, like, we give scholarships in the thousands. That was a moment. That was truly a moment. And yeah, it was a great night. There's always surprises. You never know what people are going to say. There was a moment when someone gave an acceptance speech, and I think that their heart was in the right place, but people just always like to do unpredictable things. And so this person received their award. And, I think that they were in this moment of saying, we all need to come together. And, which is true. We as Black journalists should come together. And so they, I guess, felt like they were making this first novel step. And they said that they were going to, give PABJ a donation on behalf of an individual who just recently passed and was the former president of NEBJ Philly. And they said they were going to also give them a donation on behalf of PABJ. And I think they thought that this gesture and this statement was going to, kind of encourage people to come together. Well, of course, after they received their award, I had a couple of things that was on my chest that I wanted to share. And, it was a very interesting moment because for those people who didn't really know what was going on, they might have not understood what was really going down. But a lot of people that were there understood what was happening. And how do you find an eloquent way, a masterclass in addressing some BS while also maintaining a level of poise and classiness and sophistication in a way of how do you read someone in filth, but in a very tasteful, sophisticated way that if you don't know what's going on, you're going to think, oh, this is just a passionate speech. And if you do know what's going on, you're like, I found that in a spontaneous way. And I think Saturday night was this beautiful way of I was reminding of my power and my gift of gab, but also my unique sense of knowing how to say the right things the right way at the right time. And so in that moment, I was a little surprised that this person decided to do this in the middle of a moment, um, which wasn't met with the reaction I think they thought it was going to be. But in that moment, I could have added fuel to a fire that would have really made the experience uncomfortable for them and could have actually fueled the divisiveness of the room, which was on my side, to be clear. But I realized, no, 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 let's make this a teachable moment for this person who clearly doesn't understand the nuance and depth. I think sometimes one of the things that I do really well, but also can find it to be slightly a disjointing experience, is that I wear a lot of my hardship really well. I sometimes do in a way that makes people not recognize how exhausting, how annoying, how frustrating, how painful it can be at times. I've been blessed, truly blessed, to navigate a lot of fucked up things. And you all know this. Those who've been listening to this podcast, you already know what I'm talking about. You already know the situation. We don't even have to go through memory lane. But I do it so well that I think some people don't understand the art. And I think about Michael Jackson, specifically in regards to Moonlight, the moonwalk. Not his controversies, because in some ways, but that's another story for another day. But what I want to get to is the moonwalk. Michael Jackson talks about how, when he was alive, that a lot of people see him do that dance, right? The moonwalk is iconic. It's an iconic dance. And people will assume that because he makes it look so easy and so effortlessly, that it does not require a lot of practice. It does not require a level of precision to get those dance moves on beat. And I think that that's exactly how I would describe these situations. The way that I make it look effortless, the way that I make it look like magic, the way that I'm able to just know how to respond in very poignant ways, people assume that there's no pain, there's no stress, that there's no preparation, there's no exhaustion. They don't know it. But that's the magic, right? It's when I think about Beyonce, when Beyonce goes on stage and she just makes it look fearless. She makes it just look like it's magic. In so many ways it is, but this is a woman who's had to bust her ass. This is a woman who's had to spend countless hours and years of opportunities away from her family, opportunity away from other things that she can be doing in her life, time that she can't get back, to master her craft in a way that appears to be effortless on that stage. And I think that people don't realize how much work I do behind the scenes to make it look as effortless. And sometimes people can take that for granted. Sometimes people can just assume, well, of course he's going to be, just know what to say on his feet. And while that is true, it's something that a lot of people can't do. And it doesn't mean that there weren't times where it was frustrating, that it didn't make me at times cynical. It didn't make me feel helpless. It didn't make me angry. It didn't make me cry. It didn't make me feel any of those things. It's just that because I've been doing this for so long and have understood how to navigate through the bullshit, that as a result of it, it can feel effortless, effortlessly moving past the bullshit. But that is an art. It's a practice. It's a discipline. It's something that isn't something that you can do overnight. And sometimes people can lose sight of that. There was someone this week who I admire, and his name is Kalen Allen, and he's a Black queer entertainer. And he was given this speech about navigating the bullshit of the world and this all the things as Black queer men, specifically those who are feminine and those who are unique. He said something in his manifesto, in his speech. He said, your existence disrupts what they were taught to accept. And that has stuck with me. That is stuck with me when he said it. He was talking on Instagram and he was talking about just, knowing that he could be his best and his absolute best. But living in a world where even when you are your best, even when you are talented, even when you are the smartest, even when you know you deserve, there's always going to be various politics and optics and games that are being played behind the scenes in front of your face that will still try to deny you. And he was saying to those people in those circumstances, specifically Black queer men who are different, who are radical, right? And I felt so much of that connection in his speech and his remarks, that people will deny you but they keep going because your existence disrupts what they were taught to accept. And I felt that because in so many ways, my existence, how I do it the way that I do it, it disrupts a lot of what these people were taught to accept, right? My standard of excellence, my standard of what equality looks like, what diversity truly means, what inclusion really feels like, what I've been able to create and what I've done disrupts other people's norms. And what that PABJ Awards Gala looks like, what the type of leadership that I do looks like, it challenges and shifts the paradigm of what so many people think is impossible. What does it look like to be in a space that celebrates Black people, that honors it, that's led with a very intersectional lens? What does it look like for those people to rule, to lead, to do so unapologetically, to do so in all of their brilliance, to do so in a space where we matter and we're centered? I've been able to say that I know what that feels like, that I've created moments and memories and institutions and has shifted roles so many times. And to be able to do that in my 30s now, to be able to do that and look the way that I look and talk the way that I talk and express myself the way that I express myself, and to do it in a way that doesn't intimidate, but actually motivates. That's a gift. It's a gift that I've been blessed with. It's a gift that inspires. It's a gift that, I thought, other people can do this if they were given a platform. No, they can't. Someone this weekend named Dominique Morgan, a Black trans activist, said that in many ways, there are some people who built the blueprint and there's other people that need GPS. What happens when you are the GPS that they depend on to do the work? And I said, yes. Like, what happens when you're the map? You've made the map and other people on GPS. No shade to them, but I have created a map. I've created an entire blueprint on how things can be in various places of the industry. I am a trailblazer. I am all the things that people say I am. I am that guy. I am me. And I think there are times where I get so lost into the work, and as I should, because that is what it's about, right? That there are times where I'm so busy making the moves happen that these are the moments where I can take a step back and go, I am truly me. I am him. And woo, it's incomparable. It's unmeasurable. And you can, and I'm talking my shit because damn it, I deserve it. And the gala really reminded me of that. It just it feels good to be reminded of your power. It feels good to be reminded of your necessity. It feels good to be reminded that you're loved at a time when so many people don't feel that. I feel that. I really do. I truly do. I'm reminded on so many levels why I matter and why I'm needed now more than ever. When so many people want to compare or to dismiss or disparage or reduce, I'm reminded they wouldn't be doing that if I didn't matter. People don't disparage things that don't fucking matter. People don't try to silence things that they feel doesn't matter. It's true. It's just true. And so I just want to say to every listener, every subscriber, every person that continues to fuel this machine, fuel this engine that I am. Thank you. And I love you. I want to say that to you. If you're listening, I love you. And I thank you. I do. I truly do. Because it's not always easy being me, but I wouldn't want to be anyone else. And I hope you feel that way about yourself. Truly. It is not easy being you. But I've been saying this lately. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's got to do me. And that's me. I got to do me. Because somebody got to do it. Some people are trying to duplicate and imitate an AI. But you can't AI this. You can't chat GPT this. This is something of divine intervention. This is something that took decades to produce. The years, the years, the times of rejection, the times of pushing through. It's a lot of grit here. And I'm just reminded of that so much. Because goodness, people need to be reminded, people gotta be reminded, including myself. So I wanted to say that. The gala was fabulous. But it was a part of a great weekend altogether. Friday night, myself and my bestie Jamarcus, we went to Ballers, this new space that's out there around Fishtown area. It's connected to the Battery, brand new inside indoor sports arena space, sporting club space, energy vibes, multiple floors. They got bars, they got great food, they got a whole lovely space for people to play pickleball and do other things. It's grand. I mean, what they've been able to achieve. Philly's in this interesting space right now, y'all. Like, it's like there are some really big, massive creative ideas and things happening right now, but there's also a lot of ridiculous shit happening, and the ridiculous shit overshadows some of the more creative, thoughtful, interesting, fun things. It's like we're in a tale of two cities, like part of my life, especially in the past couple years, I'm going to these very like outstanding, inspiring, thoughtful moments in Philly. Even things that I can't even get a chance to make it to. Like, oh my goodness, Thursday night, two great events were happening at the same time. My good friend Taib Smith had this incredible exhibit. This space that is really empowering Black folks, specifically creatives, honoring the legacy of Toni Morrison, but in a Philadelphia way that's incomparable. A lot of my friends got a chance to go to it. But he's been really pushing this wonderful event. And it's really highlighting Toni Morrison's Philadelphia. It's a very beautiful exhibit that's at In Liquid. It's an In Liquid gallery, but it's called The Source of Self-Regard, which is inspired by Toni Morrison's incredible, groundbreaking book. And there was a great event. It just, There's a lot of great events happening there, and I got to get down there. But that happened. There was a special event that happened there on Thursday, but I couldn't go because I was at Whiskey Fest, which was at the Link, and it's a part of course, the Philly Mag brand. It is a Lit Brothers classic. It's a signature event the Lit Brothers go to. We saw so many fans. Shout out to Philly Mag Events for putting the event on. We were so happy to get to meet several of our fans who saw us there on location. Lit Brothers have been out and about. We've been all over the place this year, but we've been really hitting the streets to make sure that, we got a chance. These are some of these public facing events. We do a lot of things together as a group, but we really knew it was important for us to come together for this special occasion. So, of course, they went to the gala on Saturday. Of course, we had to go to the Whiskey Fest. It was an opportunity for us all to come together. But we've been working on some interesting things that's coming up. Couple of stuff I can't speak on that's involving some of our Lit brothers. But yeah, we've just been putting in the work, and each of us have been doing some great things in our work. Jamarcus is, of course, got new music coming very soon. If you have not followed Jamarcus_music, please do. Follow Jamarcus Henderson on Instagram. I always tag him, but he also has a music page. He's working on some new music projects that's coming out very, very soon. So support my bestie, my fellow Lit brother. If you've not heard any of his other music, you can. All of his music has been remastered and reloaded on all of his multiple channels, Spotify, Apple, all where you can listen to all music. But Jamarcus Henderson is his name. Make sure you check out his music, his past projects. He's got some new stuff coming up, but it's a good way to just know and hear his sounds. You've heard his sounds. It's what is the score of Ernestly Speaking. If you've listened to the beginning of the show, you hear that beat. That's Jamarcus. That's his production. That's his sounds. But he also is a lyricist, a songwriter. He writes his own music. He produces his own songs. He is a hypernet artist, multi-talented. He's a hypernet. He does it all. Songwriting, music production, lyricism, vocals, that's all him. And so you get a chance to hear his music and experience him. He does his big one. Also, George, Gio's Table, he's got some things coming up. Can't speak on that either, but, making it happen. Of course, I got things that I don't tell y'all about, but hopefully very, very soon I get to make some big announcements too. I know a lot of things that y'all have been asking me about or anticipating. Something's coming very, very soon. But, and of course, Josh of Josh Eats Philly, Josh Moore, our other Lit brother. He's always doing some great endorsement deals, surprises, some things I can't tell y'all about. But, just keep following his page. There's all kind of surprises. Y'all saw that deal he did with Little Caesars with Saquon Barkley. Oh, Josh. Josh's going to get a bag. One thing about Josh, he's going to get a bag. Whether the bag can sometimes make me roll my eyes. But again, somebody's got to do it. So I love him. And I love what he's up to all the time. But yeah, we was at Whiskey Fest. It was always a great time. Lots of whiskey, lots of fest. I'm going to throw some shade. I'm going to throw a little bit of shade. Because there was another group, the Philadelphia Inquirer. Y'all know I can't stand them, and they're just a horrible institution. Where's y'all DEI plan, Philadelphia Inquirer? I digress. They thought that they were doing a big one on Saturday when they decided to throw the food fest, okay? Whatever the fuck that is. I felt like it was a wannabe Best of Philly. They always are trying to hijack what we do. They try, you notice that they had that Philly favorites nonsense, right? That just feels like a big, huge clusterfuck of... like, I don't even know what their standards are, but remember the 76, they've been doing this Philly 76 restaurants. Who started that? Like, first of all, Philly Mag, okay, invented the Best of Philly, right? They tried to copy our shit until they got a little knock on that door and had to rechange what it was. But they've been like we copyright Best of Philly. We've been doing that for over 50 years, okay? I say we, but we're in a family. But Philly Mag has been doing that from the very beginning. And recently they've been trying to eat at what we do. And it's like they've had to change that entire Philly favorite thing. Because they initially were playing with some Philadelphia's best or something. And it was like, hold up. What y'all doing? So they've had to like change the model, but it's cheap. It's just not. It does not pop. It does not pop. And we had the 50 best restaurants. Okay, there is one definitive best restaurants list in Philadelphia, and that is Philadelphia Magazine's 50 best restaurants. 50. This 76 crap. Like, what is that? What is it? Like, let's be real. Let's be real. Let's be real. I'm just gonna say let's be real. Corny. This food fest event. Y'all know I didn't go to it. But some people I know did go to it. And they was my eyes and my ears, okay? The streets were talking. The streets were talking. And, I got video footage. I got pictures. I heard all about it. People were pissed, okay? I've heard mixed reviews at best. But a lot of people were not feeling it. Or they thought it was mixed. I've heard people say they gave it a 7.5 out of 10. And that was the nicest of nicest people. But a lot of people were even more disappointed. First of all, I heard that it was crowded as shit. It was a lot of people. They had a lot of people coming. But what I heard was that they did not have the production of food to match the crowd. They were at the Fillmore for starters. They packed everybody up in there like sardines. There was a lot of food running out. A lot of food vendors did not have enough food for the capacity to which they did. They said that the event kept changing its identity several times throughout the discourse. Like, apparently the programming, the production what was problematic was the production. So they said people said that overall, I think, because I like to give a meaningful critique. I'm trying to, because y'all say, Ernest, you might be a little biased. Well, listen, y'all know when something's good is good, and when it's not, it's not. I can be fair, right? But what I heard was, for people who got to have the food, they said the food was good. Now you're trying to figure out what do we mean by food. It's like, first of all, they copy the Best of Philly model, except it's just not giving the level of flow that Best of Philly do. One thing that they cannot top about a Philly Mag event, Philly Mag understands that when you're charging people a ticket price over $100 something, you got to give people value. A lot of people told me who went to the event that it was not worth the over 170, I think it was $176 or whatever, or maybe more. It was not worth that price. That price should have not cost that much. And part of the reason why was because they said that, first of all, I did not have an open bar. There were drink tickets. They gave people 2 drink tickets. And then it was this perception of unlimited food. If you go to a Philly Mag event, we're going to have liquor sponsors. There's always going to be some element of an open bar. There's always going to be an opportunity to get your drink on and get your eat on. Like, everything we do, there's food and drink. There's always going to be plenty of food to eat and plenty to drink. Whiskey Fest is a textbook example of that. They charge people around the same cost of our event, but yet it was not the same quality. And people said, why? The reason why is that Philly Mag has sponsors. They get a lot of sponsors. They have a built-in brand where sponsors are willing to show up and provide. They do things on a big scale. Like, our event was at the Link. We could fit people in the Link. That was a very spacious, ambitious event, but it was beautiful because there was a lot of vendors. There was lots of movement. It was always an opportunity to get your sip on. We had so many participating vendors that the value of that event was stellar. Okay? Let's start there. The issue with this shit show of an event, okay, whatever the fuck a food fest is, was that you didn't have that many vendors and you didn't have that much sponsorship to increase the value. Okay? And I guess for the past 5 years, I know how to produce a goddamn good event. I know how to make sure that people will never leave my event feeling like they didn't get their money's worth. I know how to throw a good event. My gala, baby, let's talk about that bar at the PABJ Gala. One of the best bars we've ever done. We had 3 bartenders back to back next to each other with a full-fledged open bar service. If you want a martini, you want a Cosmo, baby, they was giving it to you. And we had 3 bartenders working. There was never a bottle cap of a line throughout. We had over 100 people at our gala, and people was able to get a drink without it feeling crowded and jam-packed. That's what service looks like. okay? Our gala tickets were $150. Shout out to our sponsors, right? $150, and you had an open bar all night long, okay? Grey Goose, Tito's Vodka, you name it, baby. We had it at that bar. You had a gorgeous dinner situation. We served prime rib. We served fall classics. We had salmon roulette. Like, we was doing our big one, okay? We had a crazy salad bar. We had pasta. Like, this is what quality looks like. So for you to have a food festival event and give people just two little drink tickets, and you told people they can't come back, they can leave. Once they leave, they can't come back. What is that? You had an event where you gave a bunch of small sample plates. There were a lot of people that said that the food that they could get, it was good, but the problem was things was running out. There are people in line for like 30 minutes waiting in line for a dish, like waiting in line to get a sample. The production of the chefs were not making food fast enough to really be able to serve people the samples. It was way too many people, and people were running out of dishes. Food supply was being run out. You really could try one thing once if you can make it in line. So it was just a lot going on. There was programming that were there. There was like some speaking stuff going on. It was chaos. Disorganized chaos. A lot of people were not really feeling it, and on so many levels. I mean, again, the chefs that they did have, they said the food that they could try, they said was good, right? So it wasn't the chefs weren't good. It's just that this was an event that had way too many people. And there were chefs that were frustrated because they looked like the bad guys because they weren't communicated. I spoke to some chefs that called me, on the side. They were like, yo, we ran out of food. They didn't tell us it was going to be this many people. They were not transparent about the numbers. There were a lot of influencers that were begged to come to the event, promote the event. They were forcing, the influencers were VIP. There was a lot of people that were complaining that there were so many influencers in the space that it felt like this event was feeding them because they gave a lot of tickets away to influencers and their friends. There were a lot of discount codes that were circulating. They was never really served. I don't know if anybody really truly bought. I mean, there were probably a handful of people, but I don't know how many people truly spent the actual price. They were reducing these prices so much, I feel like, because of the fact that no one was going to pay the original price. I feel like they had to go down the price. They were like $10 off coupons and 20% off coupons. Like, it was all kind of stuff flowing around. I feel like they never actually sold the event for the price it cost, or I don't know if that was a gimmick, but it was reeking of desperation. I don't know if they'll do this event again. I don't think they should do it again. And if they do try to do it again, I mean, I just think it's crazy that they did it on the week of, I think it's ridiculous that they did it the week of Whiskey Fest. Like, who thought that was a good idea? Like really? Monkey see, monkey do? I don't know. I don't know. But the Inquirer, again, is tone deaf as fuck. I will never be going to that event. And to the people that went, y'all fucked around and y'all found out. I think this episode should just be called Fuck Around and Find Out. FAFO. I think that's what this episode is. Because there's a lot of themes around that, fucking around and finding out. Went to lunch at El Mercay. Very good time. I went Friday for a good lunch at El Mercay. El Mercay. It was a women-owned Latin restaurant. Very, very good. Oh, my goodness. I ate my way through there. This is in Center City, for those who not been. Great place for lunch, okay? El Mercay it's a classic. If you are a person who is like gluten-free, they have some of the best gluten-free dishes on the planet for people who are very much big on it's very affordable. Oh my goodness. It's very affordable. It's located on 21st and Chestnut Street. They got pupusas, they got tostadas. They have a lot of things. I think they're Central American. Everything is about corns, beans, chiles, chocolate. They got churros, taquitos, pupusas. tostadas. Like, this is not a taco spot. This is a Central American street food staple. And that's what I love about this place, because they are really invested in, they have a very specific menu, and they do everything really, really well. Plantain chips, they got the corn rice, they got the refried beans. I really like that they have a unique identity. Like, this is not your little typical, this is not a spot where you get tacos and burritos. Like, this is not that spot. That's a whole nother thing. This is like a Guatemalan restaurant and cuisine, for those who don't know. But I've had their food before, but I really loved that I had a full lunch experience, and I was really impressed with the food. It's just so delightful. They have a vibe, and it's woman owned. It's a great space. And so I very much encourage people, go for lunch, go on a Good Friday. They have lots of space, lots of great drinks, and lots of great food. But go for lunch, go check it out. Go catch up with some friends and see what it's giving. But I highly recommend it. Definitely was one of my favorite places to eat this week. So yeah. Which also, I want to bring this up real quick. Michelin star is November 18th. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's nervous. The Michelin star is going to finally announce very, very soon. So people are trying to figure out which restaurants are going to get stars and get Michelin stars. It's the first time it's hit Philadelphia, and everyone's like on the edge of their seats. We'll find out on November 18th. That is on a Tuesday. So we'll find out Tuesday who's going to get the Michelin stars. People that were predicting, Royal Sushi and Izakaya is definitely going to be what we're keeping an eye on. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, y'all know my favorite restaurant in Philadelphia. That's my favorite. We're going to see if they're going to get Michelin star. Vetri Cucina Vetri, Vetri Cucina. This is, Mark Vetri's, love letter. We're going to see if that gets a star. Provenance. Okay, the big, huge, I went to Provenance last year. This is a big, huge, ambitious restaurant. Everyone's been talking about it. The streets have been talking about it. We're going to see if they'll get, a Michelin star. A lot of people think it's going to be the death knell for this restaurant. It's a very high-end cuisine. I mean, very expensive. That tasting menu was like $400. It's a baller's restaurant. We're going to see if they'll get it. But it's an interesting time. It's an interesting time to see how this is going to shake. A lot of people are really on the edge. What will it mean for these restaurants, right? There's a lot of anticipation. Kalea, or Kalaya, however you want to pronounce it. Are they going to get it? I think Royal Sushi and Izakaya, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Kalila, and Vetri Cucina. I think those are the major four, but it would be interesting to see if Provenance gets it. So it's going to be a big deal. I have some thoughts about this entire situation, to be honest. I don't know how I feel about the Michelin stars. I've complicated views about it, because in one sense, right, I have been someone in the past, and y'all know I wrote the iconic piece for Eater Philly, where I listed restaurants that I think should get Michelin stars and be in consideration for Michelin stars if they were to come to Philly. I wrote this a year ago, and it is a piece that thousands of people have read, and it went really viral when it first dropped. And to this day, people will still go back and look at it. But, initially, I was very excited about the idea of a Michelin star restaurants in Philly. There was a part of me that felt like this would be great for the city. These chefs deserve it. It will put Philadelphia's food scene on the map. I've always loved the Philadelphia restaurant scene for years. It's part of the reason. So it is a part of the reason why. It's in the top 10 reasons why I stayed in Philadelphia. Because I'm going to New York City to see my college roommate, Abel, our best man in our wedding, Mr. Johnson and I's wedding. And love Abel down. But Abel just always gets excited about New York, and he's always like bragging about New York City. I'm like, I just feel like New York City's overrated. There are good things about it. Now, one thing I will say, I am a big Broadway girl. I love Broadway shows. We're going to see a Broadway play, actually. This show isn't on Broadway yet. I think it will be. It's an off-Broadway show. But I love the musical scene and theater scene in Broadway, in New York City. That is something that they have really well. And honestly, if I lived in New York City, I probably would go to a Broadway show like every week. Like, I would go see shows. Like, I love Like I don't care about the money. I don't care about the cost. I would just go all the time and go to the show. But I I mean, as far as the restaurant scene goes, it's good. You know, I mean, they have great restaurants. I've been to several great restaurants. I have many more to go to that I'm going to get back to you. I have a list of restaurants I need to go to in New York City, and I'm hitting some major ones I've been waiting to go to forever already. So, Mr. Johnson, I got a list of restaurants we're going to go to later in November when we get there. But I've been to some of the classics. I've been to La Bourdin. I've been to Tatiana. I've been to some really great, you know, standard restaurants in New York City. And definitely going to some new ones coming up. But I say all this to say that, you know, I wanted Philly to have that because I think people act like Philly. People have played with Philly's food scene for a while. And so in one sense, I do think that it would be nice to see Chad Williams have a Michelin star. I mean, this man has had the James Beard Award. He's won everything under the sun, right? I could see Zahav getting a Michelin star potentially, right? I could see Zahav getting one for sure, right? You know, Michael Solomonov has worked his ass off, right? But I think what I'm concerned about and what I've heard from people who live in these other cities that have Michelin stars, especially those in Chicago, you know, my birthplace, is that when the Michelin stars come, something happens, right? Every restaurant, first of all, it does not just impact the restaurants that get the star. It changes everything about the food scene, for better and for worse, right? So for starters, the restaurants that we've loved, right? We already acted a fool when they got a James Beard nomination. The moment these restaurants get Michelin stars, it's going to be nearly impossible to get a reservation unless you know somebody. I mean, listen, I'm going to talk about it. Like, I'm not going to have a problem because I am Ernest Owens, and I'm just not even going to lie. Like, let's be fully transparent. Like, I am not going to have a hard time getting into these restaurants because I know these chefs. I used to be a food editor. I have these relationships. I know the players. I'm not going to have a hard time. I'm not. So I can check my privilege in this moment. I am not going to have a hard time getting into these restaurants because I know the chefs. I've built these relationships. So I'm going to take my privileged ass out the conversation when it comes to these restaurants, okay? So Ernest Owens aside, I'm going to speak for everybody else because I understand the frustration. It is going to be hard to get a reservation at these restaurants, like nearly impossible, because at this point, these restaurants are going to be on the world stage. There are going to be people that's going to come from around the world to go to these restaurants. They are, okay? They're going to come from all over because now that Philadelphia has Michelin in the conversation, it's a thing. I will tell you, honestly, when I travel around, you know, the United States, I specifically, Mr. Johnson and I go to restaurants that got Michelin stars. We do. We do. When we go to Chicago, we try to get a Michelin star restaurant every time we go to Chicago. Like, we went to Smith, y'all, a fabulous restaurant, okay? We hit up, like when we went to DC, there are certain restaurants we go to that we try to get into because that's just how big the scene is. So we're you know, it's a thing. Chicago, we've gone to several restaurants. Like when we go to New York City, we try to find places that got Michelin stars. Like that is our go-to spot. Like we try to find them. So I know that if that's something that I do as a tourist, Philadelphia is about to be saturated with tourists that's going to come to these restaurants. That's going to be a lot of pressure, right? So we as Philadelphians are going to lose some of our favorite restaurants to the tourism targeting. That's one concern. The other issue is that restaurants that come into this city that are going to start are going to now want to model their restaurants after restaurants have won Michelin stars. So now people are going to try to create a formula. What makes Philadelphia's restaurant scene unique, and one of the things I love about it, is that we have always kind of had a very good diversity of restaurants outside of what I call the chain gang, right? So there is like restaurant chains, right? There's the Steven Stars, there is the Cooking Solos, there is the Michael Scholsten restaurants, right? There's a couple of restaurants that got a huge like lineup of like you know, chains, or they got a lot of restaurants under their restaurant group, right? We know those hospitality groups. But for the most part, what I love about Philly restaurants is that each restaurant can have it outside of the chain gang, can have a really great identity and unique flair. Like these people make the food the way they want to make it. I am concerned that a lot of restaurants will start, the ones that do come to Philly are going to be so thirsty for a Michelin star that they're going to try to copy, emulate their own version. And I will say that it feels that in certain cities, like even Chicago to a certain extent, even New York, all these restaurants they do feel similar. Like they all have a similar like aesthetic and look and presentation. And at a certain point, they all begin to feel a little redundant. Not to say the food isn't good, but the techniques, the types of cuisine, it do feel very redundant. I feel like when you look at Michelin cities, a lot of these Michelin star restaurants, a lot of them have a lot of French cuisine. A lot of French cuisine. A lot of Japanese cuisine. It's going to be a lot of Japanese, a lot of sushi, a lot of caviar. And at a certain point, that can feel redundant, right? Like how many, like it's going to be a bunch of wannabe Royal Sushi Izakaya spots popping up. There's going to be a bunch of that. Or there's going to be a bunch of provenances, which is another twist on, another twist to French cuisine. You're going to see a lot of provenances. You're going to see a lot. If they win Michelin stars, you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of extreme tasting meats. Philly was already doing this, but it's going to go on steroids. It's going to be on steroids. You're not going to see a lot of the fun experimental restaurants that have defined the city for the past, I want to say 15 to 10 years, right? You're going to see a lot of redundancy. You're not going to see, say goodbye to the kiddos, kiddo, right? That restaurant, say goodbye to a lot of the Bud in Maryland type restaurants. Right, those fun spaces, right? That we're going to see a lot of those types of homey, kitchen, in the kitchen restaurants. We're going to see a lot of those fizzle out, like Little Walters, right? You're going to see less Little Walters, right? There's not going to be a lot of restaurants that's going to want to go in that direction of like fun, inventive, very Philly signature dishes. You're going to see people pivot more to this quote unquote elevated cuisine. You're going to see people want to do French inspired dishes. You're going to see people go more into a Japanese, small plate fusion. That's where we're going to be headed. There's going to be people that's going to try to reinvent Kalela, right? There's going to be a bunch of people that's going to try to do that in some type of way. They're going to find another country, though. They're not going to do, Thailand. They're going to pick, I don't know, Indonesia, right? They're going to try to get another, what they consider exotic foreign country with different types of spices. And they're going to try to like create that, and do it on that grand scale. And they're going to send Craig Laban on some trip and, make it a pay for play vibe and give him some experience. He's going to write about it because he gets a trip. Like, they're going to do that. Like, we're going to see a lot of that shit. We're going to see a lot of white food writers, right? A lot of white men that may not even have a palate at this point. They're going to dictate. It's going to be a bunch of the same old shit that we see in New York and Chicago. That's what's going to happen. And then what's going to end up happening even more so is that we're going to see a lot of people hold these restaurants at a level of scrutiny that they may not necessarily deserve, but is going to be warranted because they got the letter. There's going to be people that's going to say this place is overrated because they're going to expect things that they're going to compare a Michelin star restaurant in Philadelphia to a Michelin star restaurant in Chicago. And they're going to start complaining about certain things that we've never considered before. And so then what's going to happen is that in some cases, there's going to be a big, huge balloon of support. But these are going to be defined by Michelin. If a Michelin restaurant loses a star, will people still go and give a fuck? Like, will regular, degular folks even care at that point? Because once you play into the Michelin star game, there's going to be a level of pressure and stress. And I feel, this is the bear all over again, right? This is the bear all over again. And I feel bad for the restaurant culture is already intense enough in Philadelphia. It's about to be hella intense. And I don't know what people are going to talk about. Like, we're going to hear some horrible stories. We're going to see some very crazy kitchen nightmare stories. Some chefs that are already problematic are going to even be worse. And cancel culture is going to rise again. And there is going to be some moments, y'all. I already see it. This Michelin shit is going to create a mess. And I'm at a point now where I'm kind of like, I don't know if this is good for Philly. Because Philly has a history of fucking around and finding out. And I don't know if this is good. I don't know if this city is ready for this. I don't know if our chefs are ready for this. Some of them already are on the brink of an HR complaint in a scandal in a heartbeat. I'm not gonna name names, but there's a lot of that going on in the kitchen. Okay? And listen, when I was the editor of Eater Philly, I can't tell you how much shit I heard and saw and was sent to me that was going on at these restaurants with some of these top chefs. And I just want people to be very mindful. And I want to tell people right now, I want to tell these chefs right now, please focus on sobriety. Talk to somebody. Get an interventionist. Seriously. Because some of y'all are already cutting up with the pressure. And I don't know, with Michelin star in the mix, some of y'all might lose it. I am worried about what this is going to do to the food scene. I'm not even worried about the consumers. The consumers are going to get in a lot of, the diners, y'all are about to get fucked with this reservation shit. This shit about to be on 3,000. But the culture, the hospitality culture, I don't know. Have y'all heard about this shit that be going on in the Chicago restaurant scene? Y'all better look it up. I don't know. It's a gift and it's a curse. But it was heavy on my heart to talk about this now because I don't want people acting like we don't know what it's going to do. This past weekend, y'all, was the last time we've had peace. That is the last weekend where we can say we have seen it. Because the moment that these stars come out, it's crazy. I will let y'all know up front. I already have a reservation to Royal Sushi in Izakaya. I had that reservation months in advance. I am in the Omakase. Mr. Johnson and I are going next month in December. We got our reservation. We're ready for it. We're ready for it. We're looking forward to it. We cannot wait to have this food. We are excited about what's to come. But thank goodness we booked that reservation. We already got that locked in because baby, whew, it's just I'm just, listen. Why do you think these chefs talk about sobriety a lot? A lot of them are sober, Jesse Ito, Michael Salmanoff. Why do you think they talk about Nick Elmy from Laurel? They talk about sobriety a lot because this restaurant scene is intense. Especially when, you feel like your weight is against the wall. It's just going to be an interesting time. It's going to be an interesting time. But I'm just navigating all of the possibilities, I guess on the flip side, this could be a great thing for Philadelphia. Tourism, yay. Gentrification, yay. The further racial segregation of cuisine in the city, yay. The rise of property taxes due to the hot spots of the city. Yay. All right, moving along. I also want to give a random shout out to New Deck Tavern. This is like my second consecutive weekend going to New Deck Tavern. We had a little impromptu after party, and New Deck Tavern is open till like 1 a.m. on weekends, and it's so hard to find a good spot in the city that's not downtown with all the fuss and the frat of it all. But it was beautiful that we had a great gathering, a really great gathering actually, and they have their porn star martinis. I said porn star daiquiri, I think last episode. It's the porn star martini. It's so good. And this is like the second consecutive weekend I went to New Deck Tavern. So I just wanted to name that because I wanted to drink and I got somewhere to drink and it was a great vibe and it was not too far from where I live. And we had a good time. And shout out to Joe for, your hospitality. Shout out to you for that. We got a bottle, y'all. We was popping, some bubbly and we had some cocktails and it was a good time. So always good with the fam and the friends. So yeah, I just want to say that. So some media appearances, because y'all know I like making media appearances lately. I am in a new episode of Olay and Friends. If you have not heard Olay and Friends, I was on there a couple of, like, what, two weeks ago, maybe last week's episode. Well, I'm back on bringing the heat, and a lot of people have been talking about the episode, and I'm happy. Like I'm so happy that, this week's episode was about Charlemagne the God and Roland Martin, the state of black media. It was a very enlightening, energized episode. A lot of you all was feeling it, and it was some great chat. Um
That was a
a
missed
lot of
opportunity.
people were hype about it, and I'm excited. People really enjoyed me on this show. A lot of people did. Um and yeah, it was fun. It was a lot, I definitely um there was definitely an interesting conversation. I think different people had different opinions about, you know, some of my takes on the conversation. We're gonna talk more about the drama that was going on between Charlemagne and the situation with Roland Martin. Some of y'all might have heard about the beef. Um it was a lot of smoke. It was a lot of smoke. Um but yeah, yeah. It was a lot of conversations. Um and yeah, I had fun. Um I had a lot of fun with this episode. And I think it's important to talk about what's happening um with this state of journalism and what that means. So yeah, definitely encourage you to check it. It's the link in my bio. So if you want to watch that latest episode, there's a link in the bio. It is Olay and Friends. If you have not subscribed, please do. And Charlemagne, the episode is called Charlemagne versus Roland Martin, the state of black media. So we'll see if they watch the episode themselves. But the streets are talking. Thousands of you have already been watching it. The views are building up. And a lot of you all had some comments. And, a lot of people were, learning, getting into my tea about some of the stuff I was saying. And I spoke up. Somebody's got to represent the journalist. Somebody's got to represent the real conversation that need to be had. I definitely bucked at a lot of the narratives that's being said. I feel like journalism and people have made some conflations that they actually need to talk about. And so we got into the tea, and I was very happy about that. So I appreciated being on there, Olay and Friends, the great crowd, great panelists. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I think I love the new audience that I've built. I got a lot of new followers that's been following me on social media. And this is a great opportunity to build on that platform and to get new people in the mix and in the conversation. And so, yeah, I just want to say it's quite the enjoyment. And a lot of y'all like that I'm on there. Let them know that. Like, engage with the content. But thank you so much. Just for the support on that. Also, I'm going to talk about my interview on City Council Live for WRD Radio. Not City Council Live, On the Record with Ernest Owens, my show. But City Council member Rue Landau, which was great. Great interview with her. Talking about all this DI stuff that's going on. It was a great interview. And Rue Landau is a wonderful city council member. She made history in Philadelphia as the first openly gay city council member in Philadelphia's history. She's not, first openly, because some of y'all would say, what about John C. Anderson? Y'all got to stop outing people. These people were not out or known in their city. They did not run as a gay candidate. Rue Landau is the first person to run as a gay candidate and win in Philadelphia City Council. Okay? Like y'all gotta understand it. There are people, I'm not saying there has not been gay members of city council in Philadelphia, but a lot of them were maybe in the closet or not out, or they came out after the fact because they didn't think they could win. Rue Landau ran as a first-time political candidate. She's never run for office before, but because of her respect in the communities, because of the work that she's done, she's built coalitions, she's made a difference, and She's doing the damn thing. And it was a really great interview, and there was a lot of tea that was spilled. We talked about the home initiative from Sherelle Parker administration. Of course, Sherelle Parker is the mayor of Philadelphia, for those who are not in Philly. We talked about her affordable housing plan that she wants to do. We talked about this recent DEI crisis that's happening. We got a lot to uncover. So it was a great interview, and we're going to talk more about that later in this episode. But let's get into hot topics. So, Donald J. Trump. President Donald J. Trump. What's going on? What's going on? There's been a lot. The government shut down. I thought that we were going to be talking about the government shutdown. Well, the government shut down. The government's back on. Okay. I don't even think that's what, I thought that's what was going to be the big OT this week. I mean, listen, last Sunday there was some rummagings and some drama and the Democrats caved in. It was all these arguments and fights about that shit. And then, we're still talking about it, but woo-wee. Well, whatever that stunt queen of a president was thinking he was doing by having the government shut down, all the distractions that we had on Epstein files. Baby, the moment that government opened up and we swore that woman in to Congress, that Democrat, baby, the Epstein files was back on. It was almost as if it came back more swift. There has been emails. The ghost of Epstein. The ghost of Epstein continues. Okay? The ghost of Jeffrey Epstein continues to hunt this man. Okay? I just, these emails. Okay? And I just want to say that there was a speculation going on. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because I'm grown and I'm classy. But there were some allegations of some that there was some swallowing that was taking place of a bubba in question from Donald Trump. Well, from what we hear, whatever that bubba that was being swallowed or being whatever on that was alleged, that bubba is not Bill Clinton. That is what we have been informed. I don't even know why I even have had to address, but because of the nature of what those emails stated, there was some allegations that Donald Trump was blowing on something in a bubba. And people have assumed that the bubba was Bill Clinton. Apparently through correspondence, the bubba isn't Bill Clinton, apparently. I don't know who the bubba is. I don't know what the blowing was. I don't know what was, but there was so many people having assumptions about saying that him and Nancy Reagan had some things in common. I don't know about that. All I would say is that the bubba in question or speculated is not Bill Clinton. So, I think Bill Clinton wants to leave this this narrative. But there's a lot. Apparently, Bill Clinton was not on any of these islands with Epstein. He may have gotten on some private planes, some other things, but there's a lot of conversation where people are now saying, well, to be clear, let's be extra crystal clear, but there is no, how do I put it? There, he was not on the islands. So, yeah, there is these emails or these memos that are from Epstein himself shows that, him and Donald Trump are really, really, really close, like close. And it seems as though Trump really does not want people to know. And it's becoming more and more clear that that Epstein had thought all kind of things with him. Epstein was, when there was trials and investigations going on, Epstein had all the receipts and all the tea, honey. I mean, are we surprised? I mean, are we really surprised? Like, at this point, I don't know. Okay, so let me talk on the surface about this. There's a part of me that wants to know the question. Okay, so if we find out that Epstein and Trump had this relationship that was diabolical and problematic on so many levels that led to criminal behavior, right? Then what? Then what? What happens next? I mean, do we think that's going to change anything? Do you really believe that's going to change something? I don't know. I don't know. That's part of me. Another part of me wonders, though, that there's been a lot of retaliation, you know. There's been a lot of retaliation. Margie Taylor Greene, for starters. Um, this Epstein situation has caused a wedge between her and Trump. Trump is not endorsing her for I think he wants to primary her. He's not supporting her. He's been publicly going after her. She has been publicly criticizing him. The beef is real between them. What's interesting to me about some of this, though, is that Mega is going to collapse. I think that's what I'm getting. I think that Mega is divided. There are fractions. And this was coming. We've been talked about it, y'all. I've been telling y'all this. Like we talked about with Charlie Kirk's death, that was a sign, right? That was the public first fire shot. But Mega, ever since Trump got reelected, this is it for them. I think the Mega movement it's only a matter of time. I think it's a little too late in some regards because I don't think Mega really understands what it wants now. I think the leaders are turning on each other in a very public way. There are people who are also feeling betrayed. Let's be very clear. The Trump administration is now trying to call all this a hoax. First of all, you all, okay, let's talk about Pam Bondi. You all thought that, I don't know, you thought, well, I do know, right? I think you all thought that this whole situation, this whole scandal was going to be how do I put this? A lot of you all thought that they thought that they were going to expose some Democrats. They were going to expose Bill Clinton. They were going to expose them connected to Epstein. My only issue is that did Epstein actually, did y'all actually know what Epstein was doing? Did people actually know what was happening? It's just this weird thing where like Trump, you knew, right? You knew about Epstein. So did you think that was not going to come out? Or did you just think that there was going to be a cherry picking of like only talking about Epstein and this, that relating to Democrats? Like you didn't think all the information was going to come out. And so I just never understood, like Trump ran on this whole idea of releasing the Epstein files. I just find I find a lot of hypocrisy in this. You all literally made this a focal point of this entire election. You ran on these politics about the Epstein situation. You did. And to me, that was very telling. Like you spent all this time censoring, yourselves in this case. Oh, we're going to get to justice. Oh, we're going to release it. You hyped this up. And now you've hyped it up. And now what has come from this? Like, what has come from this is a situation that now you're trying to stop. So now Trump has made an investigation, which means that they can't release the files because of the investigation. But at this point, you've played into this. I think you've played into this. And I think that's been very frustrating because they want to sit up here and pretend that, I don't know what this is. I don't know what that, it's yeah. It's been very annoying, on so many levels because you all opened up this nightmare. You all have opened up this drama. You did. You made this a thing. You normalized this. You made this, a whole scandal. And now that the tea is out about Trump, you're now in this weird space where you don't know where to land. Now you don't know who to talk to. Now all of a sudden people don't want to know. Now people are shell shocked. Now it's, oh, we don't really know, what to do with this news. Well, yeah, you do. You do. You do know. So they made their bed. They got to lay with it. And that's just the bottom line. They made their bed. They got to lay with it. They fucked around. They found out. And even Megyn Kelly is catching a stray. Like, she out here talking about, oh, when you think of pedophilia, it's not people that's 15. These are like, not, we think of an 8-year-old girl. Like, she's trying to, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Anyone under the age of 18, 15-year-old girl, that is a child. A 15-year-old is a child, Megyn Kelly. Like, how fucking dare you? Like, I'm just don't understand. Like, because he's talking to 15-year-old girl. Like, I'm sorry. So are you trying to say R. Kelly's not a pedophile? You're thinking pedophilia is 8-year-olds and kids under 10. You're like, oh, these were like young girls, but they're not like not pedophilia, but like, what are you talking about? Like, Megyn Kelly has lost her damn mind. This would have been considered career ending if we were not in the Trump administration. But people are like, I mean, like, I don't get it. I don't. The Republican Party is going to have to do a lot of repair on themselves. A lot of repair. Because I don't even know what the moral, I mean, which here's the thing, the moment they reelected Trump with all his shit that he already had going on, they threw away their moral high ground. This idea of having some moral compass is out the damn window at this point. It's out the window. Like, there's no competency there. There's no trust there. Like, this is trash. So, yeah, that's what we're dealing with. Completely. I'm sitting here like, how is this even possible? How is this even humanly possible? And then JD Vance, oh, my goodness, like, this guy, it's so obvious that JD Vance is eyeing this White House seat. Like, it's obvious that JD Vance wants a seat in the White House. Like, I mean, he's the vice president, but it's almost as if he's preparing for a fall. Will this be Trump? Like, I don't know. Will they turn on their own? I don't know. But it seems like JD Vance is like playing it in a certain way. He's angling himself in a certain way that is so obvious. These interviews he's doing, it's something about him that just feels a little bit too calm and cool and collective. I mean, well played though. If he wasn't a mess, but well played. I don't know. Something's afoot. Something's afoot over there. I ain't gonna say everything right now because it may be a little too premature, but we're watching over here on Ernestly Speaking. We see it. We see what's going on. Something is going on. Okay, Mike Johnson ain't fooling me either. Something is going on over there, and I don't know. I think Trump has been it's been bad to watch. But I feel like they're beating Trump at his own game. I think Trump, I don't know. I'm not saying Trump is not the Oogie Boogie man, but there is a different Trump energy in this second term that feels like it's not even Trump anymore. Like, Trump is still Trump, y'all, but this is different. He's done lost a lot of steam. Like, his whole vibe, like, he's going to Mar-a-Lago. He's not talking press conferences. He's losing it, y'all. He's really losing it. And it's got a little scary because it's like, I don't know. It's not the same. It hasn't been for a minute. But we were so caught up in Biden's delusion and all of that going on with Biden that we wasn't really paying attention. I shouldn't say we, because I was. But a lot of people wasn't paying attention. It's so obvious that this man is out of it. And he's checked out. And I don't know. Something just don't feel right about the situation. I don't want to get into conspiracy theory mode. All I'm going to do is just talk about what I can see. I can't talk about what I'm thinking in my head. I don't want to do that. But are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? Just say yes while you listen to the podcast. Just go, I am. Show him. You ain't lying. You can say that right now. We're just going to leave it there for now. But just watch this. Watch this space. Watch this space. Watch it good. Squeak it a little bit, but keep an eye on it. Now, with these damn Democrats, I could say that the Democrats are having a moment right now, but they don't know the fuck they're doing. I mean, look, listen. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, there's talks of her potentially entering the Senate race against Ted Cruz. That would be fun, wouldn't it? I can see it. I mean, why not, right? There's talks of Chuck Schumer potentially leaving, right? We know, that Nancy Pelosi is going to retire. Chuck, baby, hit the door. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. No. Chuck needs to go. Okay? Chuck, what's up? What's up with Chuck? So I'm curious to see where that goes as well. Um, mm. Where do I want to start? Let me start with this. Mamdani. Okay? Mamdani is, Zoran Mamdani. Listen, the mayor-elect of New York City, a lot going on over there with him. But I want to talk about, I'm not going to talk about Eric Adams being a stunt queen. I'm not going to talk about the Anti-Defamation League, once again, not reading the room and doing dumb shit. This whole tracking Mamdani. Like, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing over there? Like, it's just stupid shit. But I could talk about all that nonsense. But I want to talk about an interesting little controversy he got going on right now. So Mamdani is supporting Brad Lander. Brad Lander, who he was running against for mayor in the primaries. They had a nice little duo that they had together. This New York congressional race that's coming up for these midterms is going to be epic. My frat brother is running for Congress. He also ran for, he's taking on Richie Torres. He's taking on Richie Torres. And this is to be interesting to see what happens there. There's a lot of people that want to get Richie Torres out. I'm curious to see how that plays out. We'll see. There are some people that want to take him on. A lot of people because of his connections to, his connections to AIPAC and the AIPAC money. A lot of his other issues going on. But there's some people that are considering that. Michael Blake, he's my frat brother. He's interested in taking on him. So there's a lot. We'll see. But Brad Lander, who was the Jewish progressive person in the race who ran against Mamdani, honestly, he would have been my top pick if I was a vote in the NYC race. Now, Mamdani is cool, but if I did a ranked choice, I would have put Brad number one. I would put Mamdani number two. Brad Lander, I think would have been the consensus candidate. And I think if Brad would have ran, I don't think he would have got that smoke. Okay, he wouldn't have gotten all that heat. I mean, Mamdani just cleared the fucking field. Okay, he just kicked ass, and he won his race. He deserves it. But I think Brad would have been the consensus candidate. I think he's running for Congress, and Mamdani is supporting that, and I think that's a smart idea. But there is another guy named Kai Ossie, who is this Black queer assembly member, progressive young guy. He's in his 20s, that is also trying to run for Congress. Problem is, Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City, mayor-elect, isn't really trying to have him do it. He's not supporting it. And part of the reason why he's not supporting it is because he needs to have his allies in the assembly house to make sure that the big, bold things he's trying to do, he got foot soldiers in there that's committed. And it just seems like a lot of these people that supported him for mayor are now being inspired to run for other office seats that will lead to them not being able to help push his agenda. So it's a little bit of interesting things happening over there amongst his coalition. And we're going to see how this plays out. But it seems like there's a lot of people that's getting a little overzealous, Look, progressives are going to have their own moments. I mean, there's a lot of talks about AOC's ambitions. There's a lot of people thinking that she's going to run against Chuck Schumer or run for that Senate seat. The squad is not squatting as much as they used to. It seems like the squad has been broken up for a minute now. But we're going to see. We're going to see where it goes. But I want to talk about a book that I got a chance to read. I always find a way to get a galley in the advance copy. But Unfettered by John Fetterman, Senator John Fetterman. It's an interesting book. He makes some interesting revelations, some of which, some stuff I knew already from sources already and his staff, his former staffers and things. But one thing that he talked about was that one big, bold revelation was that he talks about how once he got that stroke, which he admits to that happened prior to, his swearing in the Senate, he said like he should have he should have not ran. He should have not, done this office. His health has been on immense up and down decline. He just recently had a fall that was connected to heart-related issues. Fetterman is a very tall man, and people at his stature and his level of weight have unique health conditions that are triggered by that. Just all types of things. I'm concerned about his health, but also I'm concerned about his political path. He has been, it's been disappointing to see how he turned out. Do I regret endorsing him when I did? No, I don't. Because to be honest, the people that was in the seat running, I don't think that they were the best at that time. I don't think their platforms were the best. I don't think that they were doing it for the right reasons. Nothing would have prepared us for Fetterman, to see Fetterman do that 180. This is one of the most massive 180s I've ever seen in politics. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene might be giving him a run for his money right now. Marjorie Taylor Greene is literally the John Fetterman of the Republican Party right now. The pivot is wild. The switch up is ridiculous. Like I am disappointed. But I don't regret it because you don't know what you don't know. To regret something, I feel like, is to know and still give it a chance, or to still support, or to know something and decide on it and then still vote again. I don't, nothing about him would have prepared us that he was going to be this way across the board. Not like this. Anybody who says they would have predicted John Fetterman was going to do this and be like this, they're lying. Lying, yeah, you know, um, you know, I would just say that, you know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, I just think when I look at the candidates that ran against him, right? You had Malcolm Kenyatta and you had Mr. Forgetful. Who was the other guy that ought to be stopped? He was a plain guy, but he ran, and a lot of people wanted to force him on us in that Senate race. And he ran for Senate, and I'm just like, you know, um, people thought he was the guy, Connor Lamb, right? Yes, Connor Lamb. That's right, Connor Lamb, little lamb chop. He's been trying to make some appearances lately. I think he thinks he has another shot at it. I just think he just didn't feel like bold. He didn't feel like a fighter. He just felt like one of those super moderate Democrat types that, you know. But no one prepared. I don't think anything could have prepared us for this guy, for how Fetterman turned out. I mean, if you look at his track record, no. The big revelation from the book also, I mean, it's a lot in this book. This book, I mean, he was very vulnerable and very candid. He talked about his long-standing beef with Shapiro. I mean, there's a whole chapter on Shapiro, like the Shapiro, pages, or the Shapiro era, like whatever he calls it. But I think that was a very interesting chapter. Basically, this stems from the fact that when Fetterman was lieutenant governor, Fetterman wanted to which he did. The two black men, I believe, that are exonerated that came on his campaign supporting him, I don't think that Shapiro wanted to commute those sentences. He was delaying them. These were two innocent black men that pretty much, because Fetterman is in his lieutenant governor role was over those over commissions, over commutes or whatever, like basically over the prison overboard, the overboard oversight committee or whatever the board is, the board of pardons. Yes, the board of pardons. And he took that job seriously. And he really did work to free a lot of innocent people that was caught up in the criminal justice center. And I think Fetterman that was one of the things I admired about him when he ran for Senate because of his background in that. Two black men specifically that were wrongfully convicted of a crime, he busted his ass to free those two men. Good shit. Good shit. And Shapiro did not want to. I think Shapiro, because of his own personal political ambitions, I don't think he wanted to look like he was releasing a bunch of quote unquote prisoners and bad guys. I think he was worried about how Republicans and others were going to frame him in that regard, which I think is disgusting. And pretty much Shapiro apparently backed down because Fetterman threatened to run against him for governor and was going to put a monkey wrench in his transition. And so because of that, Shapiro backed down and allowed Fetterman to get those two men freed. That's what Fetterman says. I believe him. Because I've been wondering for so long, why didn't Fetterman just run for governor? Why Senate? Why didn't he run for governor? It makes sense. He was lieutenant governor. Why did he take on Shapiro in the primary? Did y'all notice how weird it was that Shapiro literally got a red carpet? Like he literally got a red carpet to the governor's mansion. And ever since then, it's been a presidential race. It's been a presidential race ever since then. He's been running for president in the most obvious ways, and it's just so it's so annoying. Because with everything going on in the world right now, why are Dems so pressed to run for the White House? But I digress. What I will say though, I'm not 100% convinced he's going to run for re-election. After reading this book, I don't think he's going to run for re-election. And I think there's going to I'm not going to say that. Not saying that. Nope. I have to watch my mouth. What I will say, though, is that, because I don't want to talk out of turn, but I do think that there are things, there's going to be a lot. I mean, he keeps having these health issues, these health flares, these issues come up. I don't think they're going to get any better before they get worse. And I don't think he is physically, mentally, I would reach and say morally, but that might be a stretch. But I don't think he's fit for this job after this term. I think he's going to be a one-term senator. I don't think he's going to run for re-election. And I think that the moves that he's making right now, it's obvious that he's not trying to run for re-election. The question is, who's going to run? And whoever tries to run, will they be able to appeal to assert the same base that he has? I don't know. That's a real question. So with media changes, there's been a lot going on. I want to start with the more important things before I get into this drama. So there's been a lot of chat about the fact that social media seems to be on the decline. And that might seem like, what do you mean? Well, the mindset of what it means to be social on social media seems to be up for grabs. There's a decline in Gen Zers and younger, right? Gen Alpha, I believe they're calling themselves, that they're not as interested in being on social media the way that us millennials I say us millennials as if there's not Gen Xers listening, but Gen Xers, you all are, well, you are deep on social media, definitely on Facebook. I would say like millennials and Gen Xers have been. It seems to be a decline on social media on so many levels because social media has become less social. Um, many years ago, if I have some Gen Z listeners, I guess, if I do have some, I guess, there was a time you all remember when social media was most of your news feed was what your friends posted. You want to keep up with friends and family members. You would see their silly pictures. You would, see who's dating who, and it would be a little messy. It'd be a little chat, but it used to be fun. Now it feels like social media has become less about people. I mean, look, I remember, a lot of times my friends and I, especially Dr. Parks and I, we would go through our timeline and be annoyed with certain people's like posts of themselves or, how they would, do certain things. And we just used to get into the tea of it all. But even that has disappeared. Like, I don't really see anybody's shit on my timeline anymore. Like, I feel like I'm seeing a bunch of ads and random ass, like, memes and videos and shit. Like, I mean, lots of news content, but also just a bunch of shit. Like, I don't even know what the hell. Like, all these ads, these people trying to sell shit. It's just not fun as much. Like, look, I stopped using social media as I guess the intended purpose many years ago. And I think some of my journalism has made that part of the case um, because of the algorithms. But I think for people who don't have a job in media or news or advertising, it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks. I mean, even the way people use social media now, I mean, it's, unless you're there to get news and information or ads, I don't really know how much of it feels personal. Like, I mean, people done got married and shit, and I'm not even finding out. I'm having to like directly like look for them or search, or maybe somebody who is really close friends with them, they're like all their shit. Like, it's not a space where I can get information on random folks in my network. And I don't want to say random, but like, yeah, dead ass. Like, it's people who I mean, people who I like all their stuff and follow them on a regular basis. I see their stuff in my news feed. So I always see Dr. Parks post, which she barely posts nowadays. But if she do, every seldom time she do, I see it. I'm always seeing the Little Brothers stuff all the time. But like, there's a few people that I see frequently because I'm oftentimes engaging with their work, but they're also posting on a regular basis, on a daily basis. But everyone else, it feels like a ghost town. Like, I guess I follow, according to Instagram, I follow shit. I'm following over 4,200 people. But on my news feed, y'all, I'm probably getting about maybe around 20 people on a regular basis. Like, I follow 4,200 people. And I'm not saying all 4,200 of them are active, but I'm probably seeing about 20 people in my news feed, if that. So it's got me thinking, do these other people, I mean, and I think there's a science to it. Like, there's got to be like an algorithm or something that do that. But what I am seeing is a bunch of shit that I'm actually not following. Like, I'm seeing a bunch of like pages and accounts that I actually don't follow. And I think that's what's annoying me. Like, if I scroll down on my timeline, it's a bunch of stuff that's like being suggested on me. And that's actually crowding my news feed. So there's a huge problem. And I do think that we're getting that there's a cultural shift right now that's happening where I think people are starting to fall off of social media on purpose, like more actively. And not just like the parents or the older people or the folks that just go, I'm taking a sabbatical. Like, I think there are people that just naturally like, you know what? I don't really use it. I don't really care. And I'm not even mad at them, to be honest, because unless you have like a purpose on the internet or a purpose to be on social media on a regular basis, I don't know why anybody would, you know? Even celebrities are becoming less interesting. Like, I think we're getting further away from celebrity culture too, which I love as well. Like, I love this for us. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's become a mess. which brings me up to the fact that there is a new app coming called Divine by the Jack Dorsey, who was the original founder and creator of Twitter. He is apparently, allegedly, creating a new app. He's trying to bring Vine back, but he's got some new features. And one of them is that he wants to do away with AI generated content, which is now taking over a lot of, I guess I shouldn't even call it Twitter, X content, a lot of Facebook, Instagram meta content, but AI, like we're seeing a lot of AI generated shit on our timelines, and Divine is cleaning that shit up. Like there is a filter allows you to get no AI content whatsoever. Now, if Divine takes off, it'll be interesting to see how content creators and others, navigate that new terrain. But there might be a time where we might be normalizing a filter to say no AI content, that we don't want it down our news feed. Just food for thought. Now, the big T. And what really went down on Olay and Friends, which I do want y'all to check that episode out. Is the link is in the bio. But this Olay and Friends situation. So we were talking about Charlamagne the God versus Roland Martin and the discourse between them. And I think, for those who don't know, there was a beef between them. It was a heated issue that took place over a week ago. Basically, Charlamagne the God has been on this whole rant about how the Democrats, were wasting people's time and just should just bend over already because the shutdown, they were never going to win the shutdown. Republicans got them and, pretty much was pointless. So he's been on this tirade about the fact that he didn't ever see the point of the government shutdown to begin with, and that Democrats are wasting their time and yada, 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 and people need to get back to work. He's been on this shtick for a minute. Okay, sure, fine, whatever. That was his argument for a while, and I just find it to be like, what are we talking about here? But nonetheless, he brought this expert, and I put expert in parentheses, like quotes, or quotes, in parentheses, right? Like expert, in italics, italicize it too. He had this expert come on his show, The Breakfast Club, and basically said that, supported this notion that, healthcare premiums and subsidies were already going out the window, and suggested that it was pretty much pointless for the Democrats to have done the shutdown on behalf of, trying to, improve the ACA, the Affordable, Care Act, which is basically Obamacare, right, by another name, by the more legal name. And that pretty much there were people who were getting these notices that their premiums are going to go up on January 1st, and that there was pretty much nothing that the Democrats could do. This was already done by the big, beautiful bill, and that pretty much they were screwed, and that this was already done. That was not true. That was misinformation. It was misinformation. It was not true. That's not how the subsidies work. That's not how it works with the budget. All these things could be negotiated, but specifically subsidies and all that, that was the Democrats were fighting on that and still negotiating that. We still don't know the outcome of it because there is arguably still compromise that could be made between the Republicans and Democrats, and that's what the government shutdown was. So this idea that, we were screwed from the jump and that the subsidies were already in and people are already going to get premiums, that is what health insurers give you as a result, right? As an estimate, in a result that there is no compromise, there's nothing happening. That is what was being preemptive by some groups, right? But we don't even know the companies that gave those notices, and there were no clarity. But they were saying there were some people that were getting it. So that's been found not to be necessarily all the way true either. How to interpret that documentation, there's been a lot of misinformation going out there. But as of right now, to be very clear, what are the facts is that the subsidies and the rates in the big beautiful bill, they did not lay down anything on healthcare as we know it. That is why Democrats fought on the government shutdown, because the big beautiful bill did not actually lay down and confirm or vote in anything that was related to that. So whatever Charlamagne the God was saying with this expert, that was just not true. right? Because right now, there are some Republicans that are trying to concede on some aspects of the Affordable Care Act by saying, look, we can do some subsidies, but there might be some impact on abortion rights or abortion access issues. Like if they thought they already had it and there was no point to even do the shutdown, then guess what, y'all? That would have already been known to us. That's not true. So Charlamagne the God was trying to, and I hate that name. I really do hate that name. But Charlamagne was trying to imply that all of this was done in vain, that there was nothing gained from the government shutdown standoff from the Democrats, that the healthcare subsidies were already in place, that nothing was changing, and people were going to just, it's going to happen anyway. That's not true. Still not true. There's still parts that can be compromised and worked on. Whether they will or won't, we don't know. It's still up in the air. But to act like this is already a done deal is just not true. And it was misleading to his followers. So Roland Martin called this out, went on a rant, said, hey, that this man is spreading disinformation, which, let's be clear, the difference between misinformation and disinformation. So misinformation is when a person misspeaks, right? It'd be considered a mistake. It can be something that is just not true, but it's because somebody didn't get the facts straight and it's a human error. Disinformation is when a person, is invested in giving misinformation, but it's basically on purpose. So they're basically lying on purpose. They're spreading lies, rumors, and things that they know is not true intentionally. So, for example, when there are people who were sharing those AI videos that were fake videos of Black women reacting to the SNAP benefits in a very grotesque way. None of those videos were real. They were all fake and generated, but people were sharing it on purpose to basically start shit, right? So disinformation is when people actively put out wrong information on purpose with the sake of spiking division and creating chaos, right? Chaos agents. That is a real thing, right? So Roland was accusing Charlamagne of spreading disinformation, which is a strong allegation. It's kind of plausible, I would argue. But he said that. He went into a whole rant and really coming after Charlamagne the God. Charlamagne the God clapped back, basically tried to say that he wasn't wrong, even though he was. Tried to say, there could have been a different way that Roland could have addressed this issue without saying he was spreading disinformation. He took that to he was very offended by that. He tried to say, look, there was nothing wrong that he did say. He brought an expert on. Questionable. And really tried to then clap back at Roland and tried to imply that Roland's been begging him to come on his show. Roland Martin Uncensored, which is his YouTube show, went in to make jokes and comments about Roland Martin's weight, just went into all the typical immature shit. So Olay and friends, we talked about this issue. I think there's so many problems here, right? Like who was right, who was wrong, DeSantis, whose side are you on, whatever. I think the problem that we're dealing with right now is that we're in a time of immense contrarianism. And I think that's the issue that I have with Charlamagne. Is that Charlamagne the God is not a journalist. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of conflation that media talking heads are journalists. And they're not. It's not journalism. They're not journalists. And I think the job of journalism is to give information, right? You have to vet your information. You have to fact check. You have to do all these things. There is a code of ethics. That is the business of journalism, right? That is what it is. Like, we're supposed to give you information. We're supposed to vet our information. We're supposed to be credible sources. That is what it is, okay? That's what journalists do. We report information. We give analysis. We can give commentary on it, but it's coming from a space of facts. It's coming from a space of reporting. It's coming from a space of ethics. And the Breakfast Club lacks that, right? They lack that on so many different fronts. And Charlamagne the God, one of the things that we get into this whole conversation around intellectualism is that people think that actively disagreeing or having an opinion or a thought that is contrary to what is being discussed automatically makes you intellectual. It does not. Just because somebody has a provocative point of view that is going against what people assume to be the status quo does not make them intellectual. If you cannot defend your contrary position with facts, with deeper thinking, with analysis, with a grounded sense of opinions, other than just simply speaking out the top of your, talking outside of your neck, there's no intellectual value there. And so we've gotten confused. The contrarian is an attention-seeking whore. The contrarian is the person that chooses to go left when everyone's going right because they want attention. They are somebody who wants to, ruffle feathers for the sake of ruffling feathers. There's no actual merit to the arguments they're making. They're just choosing to say something that is spicy for the sake of being in the conversation. They want to be in the room, so they are doing something to shake the table. A lot of times, these ideas are never actually fully fleshed out. They're never actually rooted in research. There's a reason why contrarians are not really hitting the way they hit, because the ideas that they normally often hold don't often are not ideas that other people haven't thought of. It's just that they don't ever speak those ideas because they know that those ideas have not been fully fleshed out. That's the whole point, right? The contrarian purposely wants to say something different because they want to feel like they're different. And there are some times where a contrarian, when they enter a room, could provide something different. But if it's not rooted in research, just simply saying, this is my opinion, or I have this novice idea without actually fully thinking the process through. I'm talking about without fallacy, right? So for example, let's say, you ever heard of Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal, right? This was a piece that was written many centuries ago, where a man proposed pretty much that the way to address, hunger issues in Ireland at the time in the famine was to consider people eating. Cannibalism was a reaction, right? Clearly, that is an illogical proposal, but it was meant to be sarcasm. It was meant to be, spicy. It was meant to be snarky. And it was a sarcastic situation that was meant to create a conversation on other proportions. Now, in this day and age, I think that Charlemagne the God is oftentimes reaching for a opposing, oppositional, or just really, quite frankly, illogical opinion for the sake of having a moment. Because unfortunately, we're in an attention-seeking era of media where it leans on attention. Like, there is an attention deficit on social media, and Charlemagne the God chooses to crave for attention by taking on these takes. Here's the issue. There is room, right, for intellectual discourse, but it requires intellect. And intellect requires people to have critical thinking skills. I don't think Charlemagne the God is a critical thinker. Charlemagne the God just thinks that saying things that are not necessarily being discussed automatically makes him a critical thinker. No, it's not. Anybody can go. Like, for example, conversations around gay marriage, right? Someone can make all kinds of ridiculous takes. Everyone, arguably, in normal society is either having two ideas, right? They're saying either you have gay marriage or you don't have gay marriage. Charlemagne the God would be the type of dude that would say, well, if we're going to allow gay marriage, how about we allow people to marry multiple people? Let's legalize thruples then. Let's legalize people to marry, let men have multiple wives. Let's legalize polyamorous marriages in America. Let's have polygamy. Like, he would be that type of dude that would throw a completely different thing in the conversation that isn't necessarily logical or relevant or answers the question, but yet it will get headlines, right? Like, if Charlemagne the God said, if we're gonna let same genders get married, let a man marry multiple people. Like, he will be that dude in that conversation. He will be the guy that, if there's a conversation around cutting DEI, he would probably say, oh, well, we should cut diversity, equity, inclusion because, he would argue that by that DEI is actually doing the opposite of what we think it's doing, that it's actually not helping people. It's actually making people less, likely to do work. And he would actually entertain reverse racism. He would actually say reverse racism is why we can't have DEI, right? And he think that's the original idea, which actually most conservatives are arguing against DEI in the name of reverse racism. He would argue that it is more racist to do DEI than not. That's a contrarian thought that's not rooted in logic, but that's the kind of shit that Charlemagne the God would do, right? At a time in which I've seen his stuff, right? His shit. Like, at a time in which, he we know there's attacks on black women. This is a man that will allow a white woman like Tomi Lahren to come on his show and platform her, thinking that he is doing something that is in contrast to the norm. He would think that rather than have black women come on his show and have a platform to talk, he thinks having Tomi Lahren, a white woman, a white blonde, blue-eyed woman who is pretty much given access and space on most platforms in society, he would argue that the contrarian to him is that by having her on the Breakfast Club, they're doing something that is intellectually stimulating, which is bullshit. The same way that people think that pandering conservative thoughts at a time where Trump is the president of the United States is doing something contrary. It's actually not. But they think that it is because they operate from a space of white supremacy. They operate in thinking that having contrasting views on the side of the oppressor is actually, which antagonizes those communities to which they claim to belong to, is actually doing something intellectually stimulating. No, it's actually perpetuating the very oppressive things that you claim to be against. You're actually playing into the playbook. Like the Charlemagne the Gods are actually not that revolutionary in thought. They're not that bold in thought. They're actually playing the playbook of what the oppressor really wants. Because the oppressor says the only thing that makes this a contradiction is that a black person is actually pushing oppressive viewpoints and thoughts onto their own community on white people's behalf. That's actually the contrariness there. Is that actually intellectual or is that actually predictable? Is it actually stimulating people's minds and making people think in different critically ways? No, it's actually a distraction. It's actually chaotic, and it's actually nothing intellectual about it. So the problem here is that too many people are treating Charlemagne the God because he has a microphone as if he's a journalist. He's not a journalist. They're acting as though Charlemagne has something to say that is fruitful to the discourse. He does not. It's chaotic. It's filled with misinformation. It's oftentimes deflecting and distracting people. And if we was to say that it's purposely done, which at this point I do believe it is, I think that Charlemagne the God purposely is a contrarian for capitalism. Why does he do this? Because it's an opportunity for him to self-gain. It's a branding mechanism. He's treating these social issues that impact our lives as something that can give him money. He is definitely tap dancing for predominantly white media companies that want to see us be divided. They want to see us be distracted, right? Charlemagne the God played a very disgusting role in this 2024 election. I watched this man entertain these very obtuse thinking points and talking points around issues that were not necessarily that important. I saw this man sit up here and platform Republicans that spewed disinformation on his show. He had to know what their agendas were, but instead he saw it as a beneficial platform, right? Because he wanted to garner views. He wanted to garner traction. He wanted to garner traffic. So he was not a journalist because he did not have the responsibility of considering the impact of what he did because he was partaking in media. And that's the problem here, right? Media can entertain people. It can provoke people. He's at best a fucking content creator, at worst a propagandist. But he's not a journalist. And he's not an intellectual. He's none of those things. But because of the fact that we are in a society where we think that just because people have the tools, that means they know how to do the work, is wrong. You can have a mic, but if you don't know how to use the mic effectively and meaningfully and consciously, then you're not necessarily who you think you are. You're just an amateur. You're cosplaying. Charlemagne the God is cosplaying as a critical thinker. He's cosplaying as a journalist. He's cosplaying as an intellectual. And he's cosplaying in these roles because of the fact that we have a lack of diversity in mainstream media that allows people to have the proper platforms to fact check his shit. And so we have a lot of people that are sellouts and clowns that are actually using these platforms to make money for themselves at the expense of disinformation and misinformation flourishing on platforms of theirs that are hitting millions of people. It's grossly irresponsible. It's grossly disgusting. And it's a problem and a detriment to why it's such a hard time. This is how we lose elections. This is how the wrong people get elected. And people like Charlemagne the God is pimping on both sides to stay relevant and to make money. It's not about actually motivating people and liberating people. It's actually doing the opposite. He plays into this both-sidism at a time in which we're dealing with fascism. There is no both sides of fascism. Either you're with the fascists or you're not. Charlemagne the God is trying to create a illogical fallacy that somehow in this fucked up world that there is this binary that you can dance in. And he's entertaining this because unless there is attention, he does not make money. Charlemagne the God will forever make money off of attention. There's no way that he lives in a world that he can profit off of prosperity for all. He does not, there's no universe in which he can be relevant without there being conflict. There's no way that Charlemagne the God can be powerful unless there is opposition in a way that he can be able to exploit. That's how he makes his money. What a sad fucking way to live. But that's what the difference is here. And so many people think that anytime we as smart folks, right, critique him on this or critique people that do these things, they personally feel like they have to defend him because they feel like, you know, it's elitist to dismiss him and say he's not a journalist. No, it's not. It's actually a fact. He has no code of ethics. He does not follow any actual journalistic codes or standards to the work that he do. He does not vet his sources. He does not fact check. He does more opinion than reporting. And even his opinion's not informed. It's just at the top of his head. He's got hella confirmation bias beyond all reason. And he basically squanders any opportunity to have any sense of good faith behind the bad faith that continues to follow. He is the donkey of the decade. He is the donkey of the industry. And he's an asshole. And he benefits off of this shit. And I think the problem with you all is that because he says a couple of nice things, you think that that's great. Listen, a broken clock can be right twice a day. But there's no actual legitimacy in a lot of his antics. And quite frankly, it's causing the problem that we're seeing right now in society. He's playing a role in it. It's not all his fault, but he's playing a role in it. Now, to Roland Martin's ass. Roland, I think, has been a struggle. Because Roland, I would argue, is on the right side of history. But the problem is he's going about it in the wrong way. Roland has had problems with transparency. Roland has had problems with journalistic standards of integrity. It's really hard, right, that at a time where we the people are seeing problems with politicians, Roland is too much in the bag of the Democratic Party. And what I mean by that is that it's not only that he is supporting the Democrats. Like, I get why he votes the way he do, right? We might have similar voting, scripts. But if you're going to call yourself a journalist to receive hundreds of thousands of dollars, we're talking over $350,000 for his media company to receive from the Kamala Harris campaign, for that to come out and you not to disclose that, it's disgusting. It's an embarrassment. It is not a good look for any of us who are in this work, because when we're being called shields for the Democratic Party, or when they call us the fake media, you don't help us, Roland. Brother, you don't help us when you're actually getting money from these campaigns. Now, he has his own independent media company, but if you want your independent media company to be considered an unbothered platform that's supposed to hold people accountable, that means holding all power accountable, not just Donald Trump, but also the Democrats. And it's going to mess up your credibility because that entire time you was getting money from the Harris campaign and you couldn't disclose that. Like, that's not good. Like, we should have not found out by campaign finance reports. And then you go on this whole tirade about how Black men need support, but ain't how you get it. That's not how you get to keep the lights on. Downsize or find new ways to do it. But you cannot compromise the integrity of your journalism and expect people not to hold it in account. Like, that's a fair critique. You sat up here and you covered this campaign, and you mean to tell me that the only way you could have got an interview with Kamala Harris is if her campaign was giving you money? So what information did you leave out? How did you cherry pick what you reported and what you did not report? Like, you literally was in the hand of a major presidential campaign. And you did not disclose this until the campaign reports came out. That's not good. That's not journalism. That's a massive violation of the SBJ Code of Ethics. You was an SBJ fellow. You know the code. If this would have been the case and you worked at any newsroom, he would have been fired, as he should have. And it's behavior like that that makes it harder for Black journalists like myself out here. Because I'm not getting paid from none of these campaigns. I'm not getting campaign contributions. I'm not getting that kind of money. I'm not getting paid from these people to do what I do. And I'm taking the hits out here, like every credible journalist is. But for this man to sit up here and get that kind of money, over $250,000, that's problematic. And so I say all this to say that I don't know how I feel about any of these people right now. Because look, Charlamagne the God is getting all kind of endorsement and brand deals. He's not a journalist. I don't know where he's getting all his money from, but he just seems to be a puppet, and I don't take him seriously at all. But this is the kind of shit that will make people side-eye. It's this stuff right here that makes people side-eye the entire process. And so that's the current state of media. We're at a time now where you got bad faith actors, you got people not disclosing, and it's making people question all of it. And now we need credible Black journalists that are going to be unbought and unbossed and unbothered. And we just don't have that in certain spaces. So I share some of my take about that on Olay and Friends. And I hope a lot of people really look at that interview. It's the link in my bio and check it out. So in local news, where do I want to go with this? We'll get to the good before we get to the bad and the ugly. So the state budget passed. Finally. Yay! State budget has passed. Any other week, this would have been the biggest story of the year. I mean, at least in Harrisburg, right? But unfortunately, in 2025, stranger things have happened. Rather than Democrats, primarily those in Philadelphia, like Chairman Jordan Harris, who is the state representative, the majority leader in the House of Representatives, right? The Democrats got the majority, slim margin, but they got the majority, right? This would be a good win for Jordan Harris. We should be celebrating this guy. We should be, looking at Speaker Joanna McClinton, right? We should be talking about this budget. What's in the budget? What's the benefits? What's the hype, right? That would be the moment, you would think. Unfortunately, no, that's not what we're talking about. So much of the conversations that we could have has changed because there's been a fight. There has been a fight, unlike anything we've seen in this administration. I mean, there's a crisis happening right now in Mayor Sherrell Parker's administration. There's been many crises, but this one in particular, I think, is hitting a very different note. You know how somebody said, who had the worst week ever? I think the mayor of Philadelphia, Sherrell Parker, probably had one of the worst weeks of her political career. One of them, not the worst. Because I would say DC 33 was definitely a major hit this summer, but it just seems like there's this L after L happening over there. There's got to be a shakeup in management and leadership. I don't know. I don't know. I think there's going to be a shakeup. Somebody's got to go soon. Mark my words. By the end of this year, somebody's leaving that office. Somebody pivotal. Because that team, there's just some issues there. I mean, I know a lot of things. I've known things for years. There was mess coming into that administration, if we want to be really honest. I thought, Aaron Platt leaving, I think a lot of people thought that Aaron Platt leaving was going to iron out the wrinkles. Doesn't seem like it's Aaron. I mean, I know Aaron has his problems. He's taken some interesting stances that have really not helped the administration in a way. Even people within the administration that are currently there have had their own bump in the heads with him on some of his some of the policies that he supports. But that's neither here nor there. He's not there in the administration anymore. There's been some exits. We've seen some people come and go on the lower tiers, right? But what we're witnessing right now is a situation that could have been prevented. And I'm not talking about the act itself, but the lack of transparency and communication, right? So, I'm going to read this headline. Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle Parker's administration is no longer pursuing a goal of fulfilling 35% of all contracts. And this is in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion. There was a goal of fulfilling 35% of all contracts being owned and held by minority-owned businesses, whether that's women-owned, Black and brown-owned businesses specifically, but that was the initial goal. And that goal was in place before she was mayor, but that had been a standard for quite some time. Well, that's no longer the case. And there's been questions, okay, as to exactly why that's no longer the case. Now, as of the recording of this podcast, Mayor Sherelle Parker has not directly spoken to this breaking news. The Inquirer shared the story initially. There was speculation, but there was no real true context from the mayor's office about exactly why is this happening. There's been lots of speculation that is it another capitulation to Donald Trump, right? The Trump administration has been, on a DEI campaign. They've been trying to cut these types of things. So, given that we've been following the mayor and the fact that many people in that administration has been very clear that they have been trying to steer out of the president's way, people naturally assumed this is another one of these examples. The mayor has not really talked a lot about raids. She hasn't talked about the Trump administration. She has been really focused on her agenda and somehow assumes that her agenda does not necessarily impact Trump in the ways in which it could, right? She's just been not talking about it. She's been trying to stay out of his way. She doesn't want any funding to get cut. She's been, praising herself as being in a major city where according to her, Philadelphia hasn't been hit the hardest by the Trump administration stuff. She's been steering clear of that compared to cities like New York and Chicago and others. She's thinking that by doing this is going to stop him from, raiding the city. All of the things, right? That was the narrative. But what we was not knowing was that there seems to be a war going on behind the scenes around DEI. Lawsuits that's been happening, some of which have happened before she was mayor. Some have happened at the earlier beginning before Trump was even elected. There's just been a lot of chatter. And as a result of that, we still don't know specifically why. But now there's been leaks and speculation, and I don't like to say the word leak because leak is subjective, right? But there has been some things that was allowed to be told to me on background that, hey, this isn't about Trump administration. That's what they're claiming. That's what the Park administration, sources close to the Park administration have said, that this isn't about the Trump administration, that this is, another matter. And she's going to discuss it, on Monday. It's supposed to be some type of messaging. I don't know if it's a press conference, a press release or whatever, but we should be hearing from the mayor later on Monday. Y'all, this story came out I want to say around Thursday. It's been hours, days. Nothing, zilch. We're not going to hear from the mayor on none of this. I don't know who's advising her all the way. But I think it's very concerning that for this mayor to be a mayor who is the first Black woman, the first woman, a Black woman, a Philly native, for her to carry all these different underrepresented identities and to not immediately speak on this was a misread, a miscause. This is a big damn deal. Philadelphia is a majority Black and brown city. There's been a lot of racial inequity in this city since its founding. For a mayor of her historic magnitude not to treat this issue as a crisis or one that she should speak to immediately, I think that was a bad idea. I think whoever her team, whoever was around, that was a bad idea. I don't know what the strategy is on that, but it's a bad idea. The issue with this administration is that so much of their energy is so defensive, you know? Rather than be responsive and proactive, they're super reactive. Like, there's so many people that got all types of theories about what they think happened. And there's been a lot of antagonizing from some of their administrators on social media. I've seen so many of the shady remarks, the backhanded comments and comment sections on social. They're playing into the drama that they claim that they want to divorce themselves of. It's ridiculous. But what has been more beknownst to me from members of city council, from others closely connected to this, is that the park administration is right and wrong on this response, if this is what they're going to say. On my show, On the Record with Ernest Owens, I had city council member Rue Landau, who was on the show as a special guest, and she confirmed some things to me. For starters, she did not know personally, she was not made aware of as a city council member that there were these lawsuits. She found out when everyone found out. This is not to say that everybody was in the dark, but here was a city council member that was in the dark. We also find out that it was mentioned that there were recent lawsuits since the Trump administration. I had heard that there were lawsuits that had happened, prior to, the big Supreme Court decision that ended DEI. We knew about that, right? We knew about, the Supreme Court's decision. We know the law, we know the precedents. But for there to be, again, another situation where, if there were lawsuits that happened back then, why did we not hear about it? Why? Why was there radio silence? It's not good. It's not good at all. And so, there's some people who have said things. I read a statement from a member of the park administration online, that's been praising, I guess, certain people who are, pushing talking points for the mayor in the absence of the mayor giving a speech. This individual said, contrary to a lot of the rhetoric out there on social media and elsewhere, this decision by the city is a legal decision based upon court rulings from the Supreme Court and other federal courts that the old ways of awarding contracts violate federal law and the Constitution. This decision has nothing to do with national politics, zero. We'll have a lot to say very soon. Well, first of all, if you're trying to go the legal route, if you're trying to go the whole, we're following the law, we're doing this by the law, the law, this was the best legal decision for the city. We've heard this, right? We've heard the mayor in the past do the whole, this is the most fiscally responsible thing we can do when she didn't give DC 33 the money. But now she's asking for $800 million from the city in bonds and stuff for affordable housing. Interesting. But I digress, right? Fiscal responsibility was the argument they used for the DC 33 argument. They're using what? This is legally responsible? Is that the new talking point? That this is the legally responsible thing to do. So they're already putting this out on social media that they're trying to act like this was a thing that they had to do and they had to follow the law and this has nothing to do with national politics. I don't believe that. I don't fully believe that. Because, first of all, right, there are people challenging this. There are lawyers who disagree with this, right? There are cities like Chicago and Baltimore that are pushing back on this legally. The park administration just do not want to bite back. And why do they not want to bite back on this and fight back on this? Why? Oh, because the Trump administration. Because they don't think they will have a chance legally, right? Because they don't want to fight back because they don't want to push back because they don't want to put a target on the city. We know what the law says. We understand it. But there are lawyers, there are people in other cities bigger than Philadelphia, like Chicago, that are saying, actually, we're going to fight this in the courts. We're going to push on some of this. The park administration is choosing not to do that. Why? So I don't know if the legal, making that legal argument is in their best interest because there's no concrete universal agreement that this is sound. And I don't know if they have, or if this is something that she wants to do, because if she understands it's going to garner a certain level of public attention. And there's no way that she can say that the national political climate around is making that decision. Because if we had a different type of administration, one would argue we wouldn't be having these issues. But if we did, who's to say that there couldn't be a plausible fight? Is the city just not trying to fight is the question. Eh, I don't know about it. I think that's just not adding up to me. The logic is not adding up to me. On them trying to say it don't. I mean, there'd be like if it's not national politics, then what is it? If it's not Trump, then what is it? That just sounds like bullshit to me. Because here's the other thing. What's been a holdup? What's been a holdup? If it's not about, if this was before Trump, why wasn't there any communication prior to this? Why was there no plans? Like, I mean, a Supreme Court decision happened. Why wasn't the city prepared to create a plan to address this? I mean, what are all these legislative aides doing? Do they have law degrees? I mean, do they know the law? Like, were there not plans in place? I'm just trying to understand that if this is the way y'all want to go about it, I mean, if you want to say it's the law, what were the alternative plans? Is there any like rules? What are the policies? What's the plan? Is there an executive order? Is there anything that could have been done? I've seen other cities react with some type of plan. Are we going to get an executive order? Are we going to get a new policy? Are we going to get something that's going to reinstate some level of concern? Like, what are we dealing with right here? And why is it taking so much fucking time to get there? I mean, these are questions that I have, right? So I got some answers in my mind, right? Last summer, Supreme Court made their decisions. Something else was happening last summer, right? Oh, I don't know. We spent all of the fall wasting precious time, by the way, dealing with the 76ers arena and Mayor Parker's big, bold plan for Market East, right? And that was the plan, right? And so this whole DEI debacle got, swept under that rug. Because what took up city council's time was the arena. That's why. This was tabled. Why? Were they waiting for, I don't know, Kamala Harris to win the election? And given that she didn't, did that make them pivot or switch their focus? I mean, what I find interesting is that they're saying it has nothing to do with national politics, but that is what shaped the stagnantness, because they didn't even talk to city council about this collectively. Like, city council does not have a plan or a concept of a plan because city council has not been in communication with the mayor or her administration about this issue. Several members of city council I've spoken to have said that they found this out when the story came out, which is why there's no actual plan that city council can enact and vote on. I mean, the mayor could take initiative, right? She can give an executive order. She can urge city council to do something. I mean, she could do some things, right? But why now? Why? Oh, because the story came out? Oh, because of survey. So there's going to be a study, y'all. Brace yourselves. There's going to be a study that's going to come out that's going to pretty much reveal that there has not been much progress on that margin of 35%. So here's the funny, I don't want to say funny, but here's the most interesting fact about all this, is that some people have said online, right, that we're going to lose 35% of Black small businesses with contracts. That was a goal, y'all. That wasn't a reality. They never hit that 35%. I don't even think they fucking touched 20%, to be honest. There has been a struggle. It was always a goal. They set a quota, they set a goal, but it was never enforced. There was never that number. They never hit the 35% for various reasons. The private sector has a racial bias. The private sector in this city never gets held accountable because it's too busy funding, I don't know, political campaigns, elected officials, not to really bat an eyebrow. Oh, I don't know, giving money to, the diverse commerces to kind of buy their silence. I mean, I remember, and this is before certain presidents took over these institutions. I remember before Regina Harrison was in charge of the African American Chamber of Commerce. I remember before their current board chair and before the board chair before that, I remember being very critical about the Kennedy administration and how they were dealing with a lack of response and focus on these diversity numbers, even within their own cabinet. And I remember the board chairman of the African American Chamber of Commerce at the time, and look who was there too. Y'all got to remember who was there at the Commerce office. Who was the finance director? Look up these people. They were Black, right? They never wanted to buck against the Kennedy administration or to call out these private sector folks, because I think the city has always been trying to build the private sector so they can raise the value of the city. That's their theory. But in order to do that, they never wanted to make them hit those quotas or hit those goals, because they knew that was going to be a non-negotiable for a lot of these private equity firms and businesses that were in the city. They never wanted to rock the boat with them. So that's why there's been not that progress. Everybody's been like, oh, why have these numbers increased? Because they've never actually directed the money in a way to get competitive contracts. There are Black-owned businesses out there that could compete, right? But there's not enough investment. The city has not invested really any serious money in trying to fix that inequity, because part of them because they know that these private sector businesses and companies do not want to do it. They never did. That's part of the issue. The issue isn't that there aren't people prepared to, but there's a line. And so it was always cute for them to window dress the goal, right? To say, our goal is to get to 35%. But you notice they'll never tell you what the number is. I think the number is like less than 20%. And so to be real with you, in their mind, they're like, y'all weren't even hitting that number anyway, so why y'all over here crying? That's really what they want to say. They want to say, why is everybody acting like small Black businesses going to get hurt? There wasn't even that many small Black businesses to play with anyway. I'll never forget, many years ago, I wrote this bombshell story over 5 years ago that talked about how there was like less than 5% of Black-owned businesses in Philadelphia. Yes, Philadelphia, where the plurality of the population is Black. There are more Black people in Philadelphia than any other race individually. There's more Black people than white people in Philadelphia. There's more Black people than Latino people. There's more Black people than Asian people. This is a majority Black and brown city overall. And yet there is a vast majority of these contracts and businesses in this city are predominantly white. The racial segregation disparity of this city tells it all. This is a tale of two cities. This is a city of two different cities. And this has been this way for a long time. We can talk about redlining. We can talk about all of that shit. So the games that these politicians have played, and it's long before Sherelle Parker. Let me be very clear. She's complicit in this shit, but she's not the only one explicitly involved, right? But she's been complicit. She's been complicit with developers. She almost did it with the 76ers arena, which I want to take a moment to talk about that. With the 76ers arena deal, they actually put a quota in place. A quota in place to guarantee minority business owners would own a certain amount of the concession stands. Here's what's weird to me about all this. If the Park administration knew before we did, right? Because they claim they knew about these lawsuits. If they knew about these legal issues when it came to quotas and things like that, why did they promote that deal like that? Why did they have city council thinking that deal was going to be permissible, that these types of quotas that were racially, motivated, right? That they were having these racialized quotas when it came to concessions and business. Why did they think that was going to fly? If they already knew what they already knew, if they were claiming that this is before Trump was elected, why did they allow those types of quotas to be in that damn deal? So if the arena would have actually became in existence with the deal that was on the table for Market East, We would have been fucked. Black people would have been bamboozled. The whole fucked up part about this, and this is why the betrayal cuts deep, y'all. I am so happy that Arena did not come to Market East. I'm so happy that deal did not go through because I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. And they put egg in the face of these black-owned businesses, that Chamber of Commerce. They should be ashamed of themselves. They weaponized the black community and the black business community against the Asian community down there in Market East. They played into a get this or get that. I can't tell you how many black business leaders and community members were telling me, Ernest, we got to think about ourselves. We got to get our foot in the door. And I kept saying, not like this, not like this, not like this. And they were like, no, we got to get this money and whatever. They ain't looking out for us. And people really believed the city when they thought that the city was going to give them an upward opportunity through this arena. And behind closed doors, that was never going to be possible because of these laws. And if I'm to believe the city already knew this. So you done had the African American Chamber of Commerce, you done had all these black community leaders sit up here and push misinformation. For y'all, it was disinformation. Because the city, the mayor's administration, they knew that according to them, right, that those laws was not going to work. And for them to even endorse a plan like that was not going to actually ensure that for those black-owned businesses was wrong and shameful. And they did not even know that. Absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Terrible. Terrible, y'all. Disappointing. Very disappointing. Like, no. So I don't know what the mayor will say on Monday, later on Monday. It'll be quite interesting, whatever is being said. But I just think we need to just keep in mind what's going to be predictable. I think that when I've been hearing, just from knowing the mayor's going to be hella defensive. Let's prepare for a DC 33 speech. We're going to get that energy. That's what I predict. We're going to get the I've been doing this for years argument. I've been doing this since I was in city council, since I was state rep. We're going to get the whole look at my track record, don't watch what I say, watch what I do kind of speech. But here's the problem with that. Here's the problem, right? Let's just say that, I don't know, that the mayor, I think that there's an issue with transparency here. But because I can't say what if she's right, because there's some issues that are wrong regardless. Like, I don't know how she is able to explain, because here's the narrative, right? They want us to believe, I guess my perception, if I was supposed to suspend myself from logic and reason for 5 seconds or a little longer, I guess my mind is supposed to be wrapped around this idea that the mayor's hands was tied up. She was working on this work to do DEI stuff. And unfortunately, because of the law and the Supreme Court, they couldn't do it. There were these lawsuits that came from some bad faith actors and people that it got the city in a place where they legally could not do it. They lost these cases and they can't do it, right? Okay, fine. Why are we now finding out about this? Right? Did the results just come in? Or was it behind the scenes? Y'all, there was something that came out that the Inquirer reporters found out and put y'all in this weird position. And why is there no immediate preparedness, right? Like, why is there no statements prepared? Like, did y'all not think people were going to know about it? Do y'all just work in the dark all the time? The issue I have with this administration is that I have a sense that the mayor's energy tomorrow is what she's done all the time, where because there's been a lot of speculation, she's going to come, she's going to be not disrespectful. That's subjective, that's debatable. She's going to be very dismissive and very defensive, and it's going to play like, you all didn't know this, you all didn't know that, I did this, I did that. And the problem's going to be is everybody's going to be like, okay, but like, what are we supposed to do? Like, when were you going to tell us this? How are we supposed to know this? Why are you yelling at us? Why are you, coming at us so mad and so upset? Because it becomes personal, right? And I think the mayor should not take this job so personal, but take it political, take it policy, because it's not that many people don't like her. Like, there's some people that may not like her, but my issues with the Park administration is that, notice I say the Park administration. I'm not really talking about Sherelle Parker as a person, as an individual. I'm talking about the office of the mayor. Insert Jim Kenney, insert Michael Nutter. It's a position of power, it's a seat of power. You are the CEO of the city. And to make every single critique a personal one, as if it's about you, when it's really about your decision making in this position of power, is bigger. If you cannot see who you are from the seat that you hold, that's a problem. Like, Ernest Owens is a person outside of Ernest Owens, president of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists. Ernest Owens, who is a journalist at any of these publications and news outlets. I am a person outside of that. And I know that when I put down that PABJ presidency, that whatever critiques I get, I am looking at it, as far as I'm concerned, looking at it as people having an issue with how I'm running and operating my leadership. Now, I know some people will go after my sexuality and other things. We know those people are always going to exist. But to be fair, a lot of people's frustration with the Parker administration, specifically Sherelle Parker right now, is in her capacity as mayor. I mean, no one's judging her as a mother, as a sister, as a, girlfriend to somebody. Like, no one's judging her based on that, right? No one can, when people critique me, no one's critiquing me on my role as a brother, as a best friend, as an alpha man, as a husband. No one's judging me on that when they talk about me. They normally are talking about me in the capacity of my work as a journalist, in my capacity as my work as a nonprofit leader. Like, okay, that's what's on the table. And the issue with this administration is that when they don't want to actually, hold themselves accountable or fake the funk or, address the issue head on, they begin to deflect on all types of identity politics and victimhoods that just, quite frankly, just ruins the nature of actual civic discourse in this country. It's not democratic. It also reeks of some level of fascism, because it almost creates an environment where there's either you are a sycophant or you're a hater. And most people are not either or. Most people are never on the extremes of being an obsessed, delusional stand for any politician. And most people are not completely on the I hate this person. I can't. Most decent Philadelphians who are in this city just want answers. And they want them timely. They want the truth. And the problem with this administration is they're not lying. Well, some situations, they're not giving us any response. Like, to them, no response is like, what? So they haven't even lied to us yet. They haven't even told us the truth yet. Like, they've told us nothing. And I feel like, I don't know, like, when you're in the media business, like, something, like, give me a sense, give me an inkling, give me a sign, like, give the people something to, like, why is this administration so hell-bent on keeping people in the dark? Yeah. It's becoming very frustrating to witness. So, yeah. And so how does this impact the home plan? So I spoke to Rue Landau. She said pretty much that right now, it's been reported that, Philadelphia City Council has postponed a key vote on the budget for this housing initiative, as these lawmakers are pressing to ensure more funding is available for the city's lowest income residents. Rue Landau, who sits on that committee, who had the hearing last week where several members of the park administration testified, we're hearing that there's no agreement on how the first, I guess, amount of this money is supposed to go out. Right now, $200 million is supposed to be going. The first $200 million is currently being held up right now. They voted on the budget, right? They voted on it in June, but we're still waiting on them to get this money rolling. And they seem to be tied up right now in a discourse around who should be the most impacted by the money first. Apparently, Mayor Parker's team wants the money to go, to an upper income group or a little bit more of an upper middle class sector so they can impact. But research is showing that people who are hit the hardest would actually benefit more, especially during this time, and there'll be more bang for buck and a better impact. It's being disputed right now. So we're seeing that because this housing plan needs to get moving, and it's just looks like it's being stalled, and it's to the point where they might be held up even more, including to the point where the vote might not come until December, which means that there was a deadline for this week so that the money can hit at the end of the year. But it's just not looking good. It's not looking good. So we'll be staying tuned on it, but we're looking forward to hearing what the mayor going to say on all this very, very soon. So this week's Ask Ernest, I want to address this. A lot of you all have been bringing this up to me, and you all know I have friends, and I go out with my friends all the time, and there's been this term called the friendship tax. And you all wanted to know what I thought about the friendship tax. It's a trend everyone's been talking about. So for starters, for those who don't know what the friendship tax is, I mean, I've heard different variations of it, but pretty much they're saying that, a lot of people out here in this world, who have friends, feel like they are being financially burdened to maintain friends at a time of personal and economic strife. They're saying, when that friend hits you up to go out for drinks, when that friend wants to go on that trip, or that friend wants to go out and experiment and try a new restaurant that might be a little bit pricier than your budget, when that friend wants everybody to get matching t-shirts and they want to, get folks too, and you can't afford to, or you can, but you have to inconvenience yourself. A lot of people are saying that they feel like, they're going broke trying to maintain, friendships with people, and like they feel the burden and the taxiness and emotional obligation to be present and maintain these relationships, even though it's taxing them at a financial cost. And people ask me, like, how do you deal with the friendship tax and whatnot? Let me just start by saying that, are we in high school right now, guys? Are we in high school? I mean, do we know what friendship is? Do we actually, are the friends in the room with us right now? Do we have friends? I'm just trying to understand when I'm hearing certain things, what's happening right now, because I keep hearing people talk about friendship tax and this, that, and third. So let me try to make sense of this the best way that I can. Okay. Brace yourselves. I'm being sarcastic when I say this. In a friendship, an active friendship, you go out with friends. You do a thing called go out. You might go out to eat. You might do trips. You might go on concerts. Maintaining a friendship means you're social with them, and that means you go out places. And when you go out places, you spend a thing called money, and things cost, because there's nothing in this world that's free, financially, in that type of way. And you budget accordingly if you work. And as an adult, I think that's just how it works, right? Now, I say all this to say that because I'm trying to find that balance. I'm trying to find the right ways to say this without cursing people out. I'm trying to find it. Center, gather. Okay. So let me just start by saying this. I think we talk in circles as a society when it comes to connectivity and relationships and friendships, because I felt like it was not too long ago where I was hearing about how young men were feeling lonely in society, how people were saying that the pandemic made them very antisocial, and they wanted to go out and touch and heal and feel and meet people and reconnect with folks, and that, we need to come into community and be in space. Like, I thought that was the narrative, was that people were struggling to get friends. People were struggling to, go outside, and there was not enough opportunities for people to engage in things like that. So I remember hearing that people was actually looking for friends, looking for things to do, and were tired of being isolated, being alone. I thought that was the narrative that I was hearing for a while. So now you find these friends, and now going out feels like it's taxing you financially. Like, now it feels taxing to do anything, like, because you wasn't, you don't want to do that. Okay. So here's the thing, right? You have a mouth, use it. There's no way that you could have any friendships and not be communicating with your friends about your situations. If you're actually in friendships with people, your friends, if you're calling them friends, okay, because see, I don't know what kind of friends y'all got out here, but as a friend who's had friends for a long time and value friendship, at least with my friends, we communicate with each other about our availability, our financial availability, our circumstances, and we move accordingly. All I got to say is I don't have a friendship fucking tax. I don't know what a friendship tax looks like. And I'm not saying that the flex like, oh, we got money. That's not what I mean by that. What I mean is that throughout my entire life, okay, I have never felt, when I was a college student, even now, I have never felt financially obligated to do things that my friends will put me in a compromise, right? So when I was in college, right, okay, there were some friends that had more money than other friends, right? Some people came from a lap of luxury and privilege. Some people did, some people don't, right? All I will say is that for me, for my situation, when I was in certain circles and I had friends that knew, like they said, look, let's go out to drinks, and it wasn't something we had on the agenda, but they spontaneously wanted to do it, my friend would be like, yo, I got you. I got you friends when my friends knew, right? When there were situations, and this is when I was, young, I was on financial aid, I was, getting paid a little bit of internship money and stuff, but I had friends, at Penn that, some of them were rich, came from money. Some of them, they say, you want to go out for drinks tonight? I'm like, oh man, it's a little tight over here. They say, oh no, man, I got you. Come through. I just want your company. If they wanted to go out, they got me. If we had plans to do something expensive, like go to Chicago, go to travel, we planned as a group and we budgeted. We talked about what was in everybody's budget. What can we do? What were some things that some of us might go solo dolo, some of us might go collectively. We had a conversation in advance so that everybody could have the opportunity to participate if they wanted to. We everybody didn't have a spontaneous let's catch a flight to LA kind of money. Some people did, some people didn't, right? Some situations, when you have it, you just do it. So one of the things about me is that when I have a birthday party, I tell my friends to come through, give me a gift. They know when my birthday is. But as far as me spending, making them, listen, I'm a fancy girl. I like to go to certain restaurants. I have a certain type of, taste, right? And I don't want to compromise my taste, right? I can be a little bit of a diva sometimes when it comes to things that pertains to what I want to do, right? And so I remember this many, many years ago. I got to a certain age where I wanted to go to certain restaurants that I wanted for my birthday. I wanted to have a certain quality. And I realized that if I wanted to invite as many of my friends out, some of my friends just was never going to spend, at that time of my life, was never going to spend that much money to go out to dinner or couldn't afford to. And rather than just be like, if you can come, you can come, you can't, you can't, I have the money. And so I would, host my friends out for dinner. Just say, hey, look, if you're invited, come through, I got it. I'll have a prefix menu. I would, comp it or whatever, or I pay for my parties. Like, that's what I would do. Now, of course, they better show up with a goddamn gift, which they all did. All of my friends always show up with gifts. But that was the way in which I have shown up. And vice versa for some of my friends. They will have a party or something. They'll be like, look, even though, look, they knew, because that's what inclusivity looks like. That's what doing your share looks like. I got friends from all types of experiences and walks of life. And what's interesting to me is that communication is key, right? Like, you got to be realistic about what you want to do. I can't stand, and I don't deal with people like this in my life anymore, but I remember when I was super, super young, I remember there used to be people, like when I was in my early 20s, that would want to throw their parties at these ridiculous places, never consider the crowd, never consider the group, and they want everybody to come out of their pocket to spend it and do it. And it's like, well, wait a minute, hold up. I'll never forget this one girl went to Budokan. Oops, spilling tea. But it's like, have you ever been to Budokan before? Do you go to Budokan on a regular? Like, the thing about it is that I have a certain lifestyle where my friends know what type of place I like to go out to eat and what I like to do. No one is at all. I don't get brand new on my birthday. I don't get brand new on my parties. There are some people that do shit, they get super brand new when they ain't the one spending the money. They got a birthday party, a bachelorette party or something, and all of a sudden they telling they people, oh, you know, I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like, well, wait a minute. You that's not who you are any other time. But they get real funny when it's their birthday though. Oh, they want to change it up. I never forget when I was like I want to say my senior year, there was this girl who cheap as shit. Cheap as fuck. And there's a difference between being a budget person, but just cheap. Just cheap. Cheap as in, oh, you can't drop $40 to go to dinner, but you'll drop $40 to buy some weed. That kind of cheap, right? The priorities, right? And so this individual, she like was a dive bar person typically. Always want to go to the worst happy hours and get $2 beers and shit, right? So her birthday comes and I'm like, oh, we're going to go to Mad Max. That's how you know this was a long time ago. We're going to go to Mad Max, girl. I got some money to spend on you. Nope. She wanted to go to La Croix. Was it La Croix? I was 19. She wanted to do some rooftop situation or something in this ballroom, and she would have these fancy martini drinks and shit. And them drinks were like $22 or $18. I'm like, I had to close my mouth. I was like, girl, and I didn't want to say, I said something else, but I ain't going to say it on this show. But I was like, girl, have you, oh, she fancy, huh? She fancy, huh? Real fancy. I was like, this is not you. And at that time, y'all ain't going to hold you. That wasn't even me. Now, see, I was at Del Frisco's, get me a VIP martini at Del Frisco's kind of girl. But I damn sure was not some get me a Vesper martini at 19 or whatever, La Croix, whatever that is, over there on Broad Street. I was not that girl yet. So I thought it was interesting that, oh, your birthday come because you're not the one that's going to be buying drinks, that you want to get brand new and make us all have to force ourselves and spend 20s of dollars on cock. Shit is crazy. Crazy. But that's the kind of shit that's what I would consider a friendship tax. That's selfish. That ain't a real friend. That's a friend who don't know how to read the room. You can't guilt trip and obligate somebody, but no friend should put you through that. No friend should make you feel like you cannot afford to hang out. Because I always tell people, I'm not saying date your age or act your age or whatever, but you should be in community with people that are understanding and y'all are all aware of each other. I'm never going to put my friend or any of my friends in a position where they feel like they can't go because they can't afford something. So there's a lot here. There's a lot here. And people need to put a lot of thought into this. A lot of thought into it. Because I think the friendship tax is bullshit. If you feel like you can't be real with your friends or about your struggles or your needs, or you feel like they're obligating you to spend money that you don't have and there's no communication, are these really your friends? Are you communicating as much as you can? Like, there's a way to do this. I've just have not experienced these type of situations in my current adulthood. I just feel like regardless of whether I have money, did not have money, and when I hear these stories, it's like, why are people not having conversations with people they call their friends? Are these people not really your friends or are they associates? I'm just trying to figure it out. Talk to your friends, people. Communicate with your friends. Work things out. If they're a real friend, they're going to look out for you. They know what that means. They know what the I got you looks like. But also, don't be the friend that's always needing someone to get you, because then that's also a little problematic too. Because then maybe you're not in a position, like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? Like, did you come in with, like, I'm just saying, like, we can't say we want friendships and we want to go out, but then we ain't trying to invest. What we doing? Just saying. Let's put that out there. So we're on to Oscars watch. Wicked is coming out this upcoming weekend. Not this past weekend, but this upcoming weekend. Oscar season is upon us. There's a lot of talks of movies and controversies, but I want to talk about this special I saw on Netflix called Being Eddie. That's that Eddie Murphy mini series, episode series, or whatever, talking about his career. It's a really fun watch. I must say there were times I was slightly annoyed because of Dave Chappelle's appearance on it, but Eddie Murphy has lived a life, and it was very enjoyable to hear him, talk about his career from the beginning to now, his impact. I mean, I've always known he was legendary, but he looks good, by the way. He's okay, Zaddy. I don't know. I was just watching him. I mean, Eddie Murphy's always been a good looking guy, but I was like looking, I was like, ooh, he's like, okay, all right. You know, how you doing? Um, like I just be like, listen, he is 64 years old. That's a 64-year-old man. Okay, well, I'm 34. Oh, he's 30. Oh no. Oh no, Eddie. Well, I mean, I couldn't anyway. But see, Eddie, for his age, not bad. I was okay. Good looking man. Good looking man. I feel like he's aged better through time. I feel like Eddie's always been. I just never seen him that way. I don't know. And I just watching him, I was like, okay, he's nice. Like, cause you see so many of these comedians and celebrities when they get older, they like some of the guys just let themselves go. He's really, he just mm, yeah. But it was a good documentary. It was a very good documentary, and great stories. I don't want to tell it all. I think you all should watch it, but there was some interesting stories about his career, especially around SNL. SNL's been a dumpster fire for a while. I really don't like SNL. Like, I struggle with them. There's times I find them entertaining. There's times I'm like, eh. But that was very interesting. But it's a really good documentary. I highly encourage people to watch. Now, I want to talk about Sydney Sweeney just a little bit, But, Sydney Sweeney is on her fourth flop. We talked a little bit about that in the last episode. Sydney Sweeney don't know who she wants to be and what she wants to be for. I just feel like I know she's not an industry plant, but I do feel like a lot of this is manufactured. I feel like we're being forced to have to talk about Sydney Sweeney. I think we're forced to. Like, this is a young white girl in her 20s that her acting is decent at best, forgettable at worst, right? And yet they're trying to force this thing on us. Like, I feel like they're forcing her on us, and I don't like it. Like, I feel like in Hollywood it's always to force people on us, and sometimes that shit would just bomb. Like I feel like Gal Gadot. They're trying to force Gal Gadot on us. I don't like Rita Ora. Rita Ora was forced on us. Like, no one wants Rita Ora. Like, musically. Like, I don't know anybody who wants music from Rita Ora. I don't know if anybody like thinks of Rita Ora in this type of way, but I feel like there's people that they force on us aggressively. Like, they just want to make this thing a thing. And we're just like, okay. Like, I feel like some of these comedians, like Sarah Silverman, I feel like there was a moment where I feel like they were trying to force Sarah Silverman on us. And even Amy Schumer, And even the other white girl who did the show Girls. A lot of that too. A lot of that force feeding as well. I feel like there was a lot of force feeding happening with her. Oh my goodness, what is her name? Because I just remember they made her a thing. Lena Dunham. Lena Dunham. Yes, Lena Dunham. They tried to force her on us, y'all. Like, I just feel like everybody was just trying to make her a thing. I feel like Sydney Sweeney is that. I feel like they're forcing Sydney Sweeney on us to the point where once this saga concludes, we're just never gonna remember her or not talk about her as much again. And I feel bad for her because I feel like she could have been an actress. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe things can change. But I feel like she had a moment where she could have been an actress that, could have grown and been something bigger with the right team. Like Emma Stone. Like, let's talk about her, right? Emma Stone is a good example of somebody that I didn't know her range until I knew her range. Like, I mean, I remember I saw her in Easy A, and that was a cute film, right? And then she wasn't a help, a little bit, right? But these are not like the best roles. They were, I mean, Easy A was interesting. It was an iconic film, actually. But like, you know, she could have been forgettable. She could have just kind of went away and disappeared, like certain actresses that we know. But she just kind of just kept focusing on her career and avoiding all of the drama, right? And just getting the right roles. La La Land, open doors, right? And then, after La La Land, I mean, no, Birdman. Hold on, let's go back. Birdman was when I was like, oh shit, Emma Stone got the range. Like when when I saw the movie Birdman, I like that movie a lot. But when I saw Birdman, I was like, oh, she's good. And she got the Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress for that film. I said, okay, my eyes are perked. Let's hear more about this, right? So Birdman happened, and then La La Land happened right after that. And then The Favorite, another film. She won Best Actress for La La Land. I didn't really care for her winning that Oscar that year, to be honest. I really wanted Natalie Portman to win, I believe, for Jackie. That's who I really wanted to win that year. But nonetheless, then she played in The Favorite, another great film. And then she won again for oh my goodness. That film, another Lagos Varmos film. It was it Wow? Was it trying to remember the film exactly, but Poor Things. Oh yes, she was in Poor Things. Another classic, and she was good in Cruella. I did like the Cruella remake. She was good in that as well. But she got a new movie called Begonia out. I mean, she just got range. But that's somebody who could have easily been. And I think Sydney Sweeney, she could have, if they would have focused on the acting and not really tried to over sexualize her and hyper politicize her in certain weird ways, I think she could have possibly played the Emma Stone playbook. But then people would have argued, where's the acting though? I don't know. Maybe not Emma Stone. Maybe Michelle Williams. I don't know. I mean, listen, there's a lot of white women in Hollywood that started off kind of like, on the fringe, but then found a way to get themselves into Oscar glory, So I don't know. That could have been her reality, but I think she's kind of blown herself up, and I don't know if she's going to be able to pick herself back up again. So we'll see, we'll see. Hollywood is a very strange town, but yeah. So, in, music, I don't know what to say. Music is at a point where I feel like we're just talking about the same stuff. I feel like music is feeling more and more bland. I mean, what is there to say? Like, I feel like everything is starting to sound the same. There's the same formula. Like 21st century music, especially pop culture, just feels very much a shadow of itself. There's just so much like recycling and reheating old nachos. Like everybody is just a remake of somebody else. Chappell Roan is just doing what Gaga has done. Sabrina Carpenter is trying to be the next Taylor Swift, of the next Beyonce, not the next Beyonce, of the next Britney. And, it's like Tate McRae is trying to be Britney again. Like everything just feels like it's just so redundant. Like everything's like a caricature or a weaker extension of something that was previously done. Like everything just feels so robotic and less innovative and creative, And it doesn't help that AI is out here. Well, AI has come to country music. We just talked about Zania Monet, 2 weeks ago, and now look at us dealing with this new shit. So it's another scandal. It's another issue with this AI and this country music. Eric Church is speaking out on it, and we're seeing another moment in this AI saga. I mean, y'all, AI. I do believe I'm on the team. I'm on team AI bubble is going to burst. I'm on team AI bubble is going to burst. That's what I'm waiting for. That's what I'm predicting. I'm predicting that the AI bubble will burst because this shit is getting out of hand. Every single day we're hearing new crazy stories about AI. So stay tuned on that. And as far as TV goes, okay, I have been watching Love and Hip Hop Miami. The new season has come back. I like you like that. You go, Ernest. No, I like good trash TV. I must say that Love and Hip Hop Miami, I didn't think it was going to come back. But it did, and it's good. It's really good so far. Like, it's been like 2 episodes as far of the new season, so if you haven't watched it, catch up. But there is a new storyline that's making this very interesting. It centers around Trick Daddy, who is, Trick Daddy, the rapper. The new storyline surrounding him is that, if you've been following the show, he's had a longtime wife who they're not together, but they're not legal. I don't know if they're legally divorced, but they're like kind of in this weird situation where I think he doesn't want to divorce her because, she might get half his money or whatever. But they got this like situation going on. I don't know. They got this little understanding. Well, the messiness is that we find out that he had a relationship with a woman before her and there was a betrayal. And that person was her sister. And so her sister has come to the show. She's on this season of the show. And we're finding out that, I guess, in some type of way, she wants to set some records straight. This is messy family drama that I'm living for. I can't get enough of. Amara La Negra, who at one point in time had a promising career. I thought Amara La Negra was going to be the next big like Latin star. I mean, she was Afro-Latina. She had the fro. She had a very strong musical presence. I mean, I think she was going to be, she had a moment for a minute. It was looked like her music career was going to take off. And now it is 2025 and, nearly a decade later, and she's still on this show, Love and Hip Hop Miami, and she has not really done much with the music. Seems like she's rich though. She's making money with other entrepreneurial projects. So it seems like she took some of that money she made and invested in some things. So she does have a bag, it looks like. It looks like she is, doing something for herself. But this is kind of like, damn, like it's almost like people go on these shows and they're just not turning out to be an artist. Like, I don't know. Like, is this where music artists go to have their careers die? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if Love and Hip Hop, are we past the point of actually producing relevant artists that's going to do music? Like, I don't know why they keep calling the show Love and Hip Hop. I don't know. It's like they're more famous for being on the show than they are with their music. Like, no studio, no production. A friend of mine made a joke about it the other day. It was like, I was talking about the original Love and Hip Hop where there was like Jim Jones and Olivia. Remember Olivia? I take you to the one who sung on the Candy Shop, right? These producers, they were like, where's Jim Jones? For starters, where is he at in this conversation of music, like relevant music? Did Olivia ever drop that album? Did Erica Mena ever get into the studio and give us any music? Like, what's going on with these artists? Like, outside of Cardi B and K Michelle, I don't really know too many of them that has actually really done anything substantial in a way that takes me serious, wants me to take them seriously. I mean, again, there are artists that have come on the show trying to build. And I wonder, the only success stories I would say that Love and Hip Hop has really created for the most part is Cardi B. She did well. K Michelle, for sure. I would also add Jason Lee. Now, Jason Lee wasn't a musician, but I definitely think that being on Love and Hip Hop California, or Hollywood, I'm sorry, Love and Hip Hop Hollywood, being on Love and Hip Hop Hollywood, I think definitely put some attention on him in a way. As far as everybody else goes, I don't really see that much going on. I mean, I've heard of Lyrica Anderson, and all that, but it just seems like a dud to me. Well, before I conclude this week's episode, I just want to take a moment to say that on Monday night, I am going to be at the Met to see the one and only Sarah McLachlan, okay? I got those tickets. I am seeing her at the Better Broken tour. I got some great tickets. I'm in the pit. I'm in the front rows. I'm seeing an artist that y'all know I'm in love with, okay? I'm going to see her at the Met tomorrow night. I'm not tomorrow. Oopsie. Monday night. I'm going to see her Monday night. Monday night I'm going to see her, and I'm super excited because y'all know I love Sarah McLachlan. I saw her at the Fumbling Ecstasy 30th anniversary tour. That was at the Mann Center, and that was a great show. To now hear her new music like live, I'm tuned in. I'm plugged in. I can't wait. It's gonna be a great show. And, I can't wait for her to come back to Philly and get a chance to see her do her thing. So, yeah, stay tuned. And as always, be well and be best.
Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.